Mm. There we go.
Well,
Hello.
well, kind of worked. Ah, we're in the middle of
Let me mute this.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you already muted.
Me too.
Yeah. Trying to manage it all in a hotel room with cables you can reach. Um, but we are in Atlanta. I almost said Denver then. Atlanta for supercomputing. Fun times. Welcome everyone. We are exhausted. It has been a
Very.
long week. Um, so yeah, for those of you who don't know, this week has been supercomputing, the biggest HPC conference of the year.
And the biggest SC ever.
The biggest.
Over 18,000 attendees.
So for perspective, last year was 14,000. The first one after the pandemic was 6,000. The number of attendees has gone up this year by more than attended international supercomputing in Germany mid-year.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't realize
that was only about 3,600.
Oh, okay. That would explain why ISC is a lot less
Busy.
busy and hectic. Yeah.
Yeah. 30% more uh, trade floor space needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I think like 40% more vendors.
something crazy. They even had to overflow from the Georgia World Convention Center Hall B into Hall A in order to fit all the meeting rooms.
Which, if you don't know, that's a massive hall. So the fact that they had to
Yeah.
even increase it is nutty.
Um, yeah, it's but the problem was I think the hall was long,
Yes.
so it took you a good 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other, or at least it felt like that. Um, or in my case, an hour because I kept getting stopped every so often for selfies. But that's the fun part of the show, unless it gets to a point where it's every 6 seconds, like what I saw happen to Linus at Computex.
That just
Yeah.
no. I'm very glad that we aren't that popular. Because geez, would I just
Well, you've heard that in LA there's this secret network of underground tunnels for celebrities to drive in.
so there are okay, so you know where that comes from, right?
And there's the reason why Taylor Swift takes 50-second flights.
Well, so you know where the whole underground thing so there are underground tunnels in LA, but they were built in the 1920s when cars were becoming new by car companies so that children wouldn't be hit by cars so
Right.
that they could sell more cars and convince you that they were safe.
Okay, that
Yep.
sounds very weird.
Yes, but welcome to uh the 1920s and 30s in LA.
Yeah.
It was a very weird place.
But yeah, supercomputing. So it moves year every year.
Hmm.
Last year was Denver. Year before that was St. Louis. We're going back to St. Louis next year.
Hmm.
This is the 2023 T-shirt. The I am HPC. This year was HPC Creates.
Yes. And next year is HPC Ignites, I think.
Are you sure Ignite wasn't the name of Microsoft's event this week?
Well, no, it was, but I think
Yeah. I need to find the T-shirt.
one moment. Let me see. Let me see what ISC 2025 is. No.
No. So, well, anyway, yeah, today, Thursday, I got here Saturday, you got here Friday. Um, incidentally, George has now reached a new annual cadence.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
No, it is HPC Ignites.
oh, it is HPC Ignites.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. St. Louis, Missouri, November 16th to the 21st.
Yep.
And the way supercomputing works is that it's different to a regular trade show, different to a regular conference, because it's not only you don't only have the trade show floor and obviously people doing the buying and selling and whatever.
Hmm.
Half the show or a quarter of the show floor is academic institutions.
Yes.
You also have a ton of tracks of both companies and academics presenting essentially how to do HPC
Yes.
or latest updates in the community.
Lots of tutorials, lots of workshops in conjunction with the big show floor,
Yeah.
right?
And in previous years, I'd split my time about 50-50, have some meetings, um, go to some of the talks, and I had my schedule laid out like that
Mhm.
this year. I didn't make it to any talk,
I made it to,
even though they were a lot easier to get to than in Denver,
yes,
as in they were right next to the show floor rather than
well, right above the show floor, really.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, and if for example, if you wanted to know about HPC procurement or data center build out or the latest updates to OpenMP
Hmm.
or CUDA this, CUDA that, Rockham,
Yep.
uh,
All
uh,
that fun jazz.
student stuff, invited
We
talks.
didn't get to see the student posters.
No, they hid the posters in Hall A, in the Hall A section, which I only went for the first time today because I had a couple of meetings there. But yeah, all the good stuff is in Hall B, so I didn't see one poster.
Oh,
Um,
student, I meant to make time for it, but
yeah,
so
he's got that busy.
well, not just that. This is
Hey
this.
Jeff.
Hey Jeff. Um, Gearling, not Craft Jeff. And hello, Vince. Um, that circuit rewind.
Yeah. No,
Yeah. Um, but yeah. Uh,
I always recommend. I mean, so there was a thing on Reddit about first timers at SC,
mhm.
and one of the things I put out was in my recommendations is if find time to go look at the student posters, there's usually about 100 and 150 or so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
last year was like I think 100.
And there's always at least two or three that will catch your eye, whether you're software or hardware.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I remember when Intel launched Knight's Mill, and we didn't see it anywhere. Then 4 years later, I saw it in one poster, SC,
Oh,
used, and then never saw it again.
wait. So you're saying that Knight's Hill actually existed?
No, Mill.
Oh, Mill,
The one,
Mill.
no, Hill never existed.
Yeah. Okay. I was very confused because I'm like,
Yeah,
I thought Hill never existed.
Hill never existed.
Yeah.
But and it some things like that, or you'll see somebody does this sort of I don't know oil and gas or stencil compute or black
Yeah.
scholes or whatever,
And what?
but they'll do it for some reason on an FPGA.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's gotten more varied recently because academic institutions are willing to buy, um, a 4U8 chip AI system,
Yes.
right? So there's a lot of institutions out there, with just a blade of Grok or a blade of Salmonova or
Mm.
a blade of this. It's a bit harder to get hold of Cerebrus. Um, yeah, just
Yeah.
but also, now that Tens Torrent you can buy cards, right? There's a few students with those as well, trying to do compute on AI hardware, which is another conversation all to do with about reduced precision in HPC, again, which there was another track
Yes.
for.
And then
And a company talking about whether you can emulate full precision based on reduced precision.
yeah.
That was an interesting conversation. I don't think I believe long term is viable, but uh,
In theory it would work, but like there's
yeah.
as far as I understand it, there's a lot to work out there. Also,
Mm.
hello Moritz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're following live chat,
Yeah.
Dr. Moritz Lehmann, he was at the show showing off his how many 100 billion cells?
No, I thought it was 42 billion.
Yeah, basically live 3D simulation. Was it
Hmm.
live or was it pre-recorded?
It was pre-recorded.
But done on a single. dual CPU blade.
Yeah, it was Granite Rapids AP
Yeah.
Blade, I believe.
So yeah, he now has a job at Intel. So yeah, good for him. Good for him. Great to see you on the show floor as well. I know you got stuck in the booth in your booth for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one thing against me working for a company in the industry is if I went to events, I'd be stuck in the booth.
Yeah.
When really I want to go booth to booth to booth.
Well,
That being said, I did speak to a couple of companies who tried to go to their competitors. And yeah,
Vince.
ignore that. Yeah, they tried to go to their competitors, but once they find out that it was a competitor asking questions, they're like, no, go away.
Well,
Especially school computing and stuff.
Well, I went to a few of those uh booths, and I wasn't convinced by optical compute. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, optical computing, optical networking, two different things, right?
Yeah, optical networking. Ayar Labs was showing their second gen stuff with pluggable. So on their first gen, they had their fibers. So they had a chiplet, right? Their Terrified chiplet with with the fibers fused directly on it. Their second gen, they're gonna have it pluggable. So in case during installation you have like a tiny tear on one of the fabric links, it's not completely like you don't throw out a
So the whole point here is that you have a full ASIC of compute with fiber attached optics inside.
Yes.
And yeah, how pluggable they are is an ongoing process. And IR Labs, which is a company I've covered on the channel a couple of times, and I know you did a short about it, is they were using Intel's pluggable optics solution from Intel Foundry.
So they have a second one now from Terraverse.
No, so Terraverse is the first one. No, sorry. The pluggable one is direct in. The Terraverse one is a 90-degree angle, and that allows it to be more dense. So you have two options, either density or pluggability.
Oh, okay. That was not explained to me.
I'm gonna go into this in a video anyway,
Okay.
about their stuff.
Okay.
That's one of the videos I still need to do.
Okay, I did not realize that that was the trade-off that you made because it looked very odd. Like it looked far less replaceable, but if it's for density, then
Yeah,
that makes a ton more sense.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of other considerations with chip-to-chip optics that
Yeah.
I could spend ages going into, and I have done multiple times this week. But yeah, I think the headline news of a show.
Oh, it was 117 billion
Yeah,
for Moritz's model. Excuse me, I thought it was 42.
yeah. If you got it on YouTube, drop the link in the chat, Moritz. Yeah, so let's start with the headline news of the show. Let's actually start properly.
Yep.
Welcome everyone to the Tech Poutine episode 11. This is our discussion on supercomputing, the show all about supercomputers, high performance computing. And before this whole AI thing, it used to be where we talk about, high performance and power and megawatts
I
and
mean, we're still talking about that, just in
yeah,
slightly different context.
yeah. So I'm Potato.
And I'm Cheese.
And if we had a guest, there'd be gravy, but no guests today. Everybody's kind of almost flown home already because we're at the end of the
Yeah.
show. Today is Thursday, the final day of the show floor. There are still technically talks tomorrow.
Yes. I think up until 12 o'clock.
Yeah, so. Um, and the big news is we have a new top supercomputer as listed by a Linpack submission in the top 500 list. If you're not aware, top 500 is a ranking of essentially all the systems that have run one particular benchmark called Linpack, which is semi-representative of modern HPC workloads. People argue whether it is or not. It's good for some, bad for a lot.
It's representative of what you would do. So it's the reason why it's still popular to this day, even though a lot of HPC code isn't quite like that anymore, is because it's very good for essentially doing burn-in on a system and making sure that the system can work. as you would expect, right? It's making sure that everything is up and running and it's all working.
Yeah, it's a good system test, but you still get a performance number versus a theoretical peak performance number.
Yes.
So which one's max and which one's peak?
So max is what you actually can get. Peak is the theoretical.
Okay, so yeah,
But the thing with the peak number is you can play with that number 17 ways to Sunday. So let's say you do a peak number, but it's your base clock times number of ALUs time, right? So all
so
all the
compute
peak
base clock versus computer turbo.
yes. And so it's you can play with the R peak number 17 ways to Sunday.
Yeah,
Um
it's yeah. Well, people have different takes. The top machine in the last top 500 listing
mhm,
was Frontier,
mhm,
which is AMD CPU plus AMD GPU. And then number two was Intel's Aurora,
mhm.
which is the Intel CPU plus Intel CPU Max plus Intel GPU Max,
Also known as Ponte Vecchio, right?
Vecchio. And so they were both exascale systems, which means they hit 1 times 10 to the 18
Mm-hmm.
FP64 flops, which is double precision, which is above HPC.
In the R Max
Yeah,
ranking,
yeah.
in R Max.
R max, not R peak. So
Mm-hmm.
actual tested exaflop.
Mm-hmm.
The new supercomputer that's number one now, which is you probably saw in the intro to this video, is El Capitan, an AMD based system.
Yeah. But this one is slightly different in that it's an AMD APU. So it's a big data center APU.
I've got a problem here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know CPU and we
Mm-hmm.
know GPU.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, an APU is a CPU with a slightly bigger GPU on it.
Yes.
Yeah. In this case,
It's
it,
flipped.
it's flipped. It's a big ass GPU with a little bit of CPU on it. So this is 24 Zen 4 cores, 192 gigs, or did they just do the 128 gig model?
28.
128 gigs of HBM 3E, 3.
3E.
Either way, it's just a lot of the idea being that you don't have to go out to the CPU host in order to do any of the specific CPU things. You can stay on chip. You can utilize the unified memory bandwidth.
I have no idea what's going on with that.
We're actually running a second machine here so we can see everybody's comments and making sure the stream's still working. Because this hotel room has great fixed internet. However, I only have a Ethernet cable that stretches just from over there, about 3 feet. But El Capitan is 1.74 exaflops, 1.72 exaflops. Just do a full close and a full startup, as in yeah. um, and it's also one of the most efficient supercomputers on top 500 as well, which is
number 18 in total.
yeah. So alongside the top 500, there's a green 500 list, and it's number 18 on the green 500 as well. There is uh, there's a small subsystem that I want to keep calling toluene, but it's not. It's tuolamine.
It's a completely independent.
Right. That's it. So the El Capitan is meant to be essentially a defense classified, or it's gonna be running classified workloads.
Yeah. So what it's running is essentially nuclear simulations. So if you explode a nuclear bomb, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Um.
The sort of stuff that if you rent time out on the cloud and AWS, you have to sign a document that says, I will not use my time on this system for nuclear weapon simulation.
You signed one of those.
Yeah, for Fujitsu when we tested A64FX. Yeah, so toluene or tuolamine or however you want to pronounce it is the public version of that. So
Mhm.
that's all the unclassified codes will run on that. Do you want to turn sleep off on that?
Sleep is off. That's the thing.
It's because the power may not be. It might be reduced power. So just double check. Yeah. So
No,
that.
even on battery, it should be off because I had a. So when I was uploading.
Yeah. Yeah. Just do it. Just do it. Yeah. But that's the new number one supercomputer. So they were able to do a run. Do we know if it's the full system or they said they may do a second run at some point,
Yes.
but because it's being used for classified codes, right? You're right. We're not going to hear much about it again.
So
The what I did ask, because this is important, I asked how much of the code that's going to be run on that machine, because it's a big ass machine, it's 30 megawatts, is going to actually use 100% of the machine. And one of the people there showed me a breakdown on the workload and how long it would what would be run on it. They said during bring up they will run some codes that require 100% of the system, but by and large over the lifetime of the system that is effectively 0 to 1% of all the time of the system will use codes that need the whole system. More often than not, most codes will be partitioned in the 0 to 30% of a system's worth, and that's what will mostly run on the machine. That's not to say codes won't scale to the full machine, but if you have one code that requires the whole machine, it uses all the resources. So why not have two codes or three codes running at a time that may have variable run rates so that other codes can come in from different groups? And because it's a national security machine, there's going to be the national labs. Multiple national labs use it regardless of where it actually is.
So what's interesting is there's going to be a dedication ceremony
Mm.
for El Capitan, and they're actually allowing cameras on the data center floor.
Yep.
Which I don't think they've ever done for an NNSA.
For a class for a
Yeah.
machine that's run. So the machine itself is unclassified. It's just the codes on it are
Yes.
classified.
Yes.
So the where is it based again?
It's based in Oakland.
Oakland.
Oakland, California. That's where Lawrence Livermore is.
It's in Lawrence Livermore. Okay.
Yeah.
So the dedication ceremony or the opening ceremony officially is going to be January 9th, I think they
Yes.
said.
9th, right during CES.
So CES, the big trade show that's in Vegas, is going to be on that week. But you could argue it's a short drive to go see it.
No, it's not a short drive.
You said 30 minutes.
No, from Vegas. No,
This is
Vegas to Oakland is like an hour flight in the air, which is about the same distance. It's about the same time that I take to go from San Diego to San Francisco.
so a 3 hour drive, 4 hour drive.
Like a 5 to 6 hour drive.
Yeah. We said to AMD, right? It's right. I'll search this.
Okay. Yeah,
So we told AMD they should do something um during CES. Yeah.
So it's over about it's 11,168 nodes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which has over 44,544 AMD MI 300As, which has 24 Zen 4 cores, able to clock to 3.7 gigahertz, and then 228 CUs that can clock up to, I believe, 2.1 gigahertz. Though in reality, if you're stressing the system or a single APU for that matter to hit all 228 CUs, you're very likely not going to be hitting 2.1.
Okay. Yeah. My bad. It's 36 miles from Santa Clara
Yes.
from AMD HQ. So if we want to go see it, we have to fly to San Francisco.
No,
And
fly fly to Oakland. To Oakland.
No, nobody flies to Oakland. Come on.
You can get a direct flight from Harry Reid to Oakland on
Hmm.
Southwest and land there at 9:20
Yeah.
a.m. for in time for the dedication ceremony at 11, and it's about a 40-minute drive.
Well, it's something to do during while we're there.
So okay. Um,
What else was on the top 5 list?
so well, in terms of the top 500 list, there was nothing really super new other than we saw a baby frontier, a the system put up by um NEISPA in Italy. I think it might be called INA. It's an oil company. It what it is it's designed for oil. Um, like
I want to put on the screen. Talk through this.
okay. So this is my article that I wrote along with a video, which if you can go watch it. It the algorithm did not like it. So unfortunately I did not appease the YouTube algorithm gods. Um and we yeah, so what it is it's basically a rundown of the top 500. But not just the top 500, also the green 500 and the HPCG and HPL-MxP benchmarks, which HPCG is high performance gradient compute gradient. Oh, the article in the video is the same. It's talking about the top 500, right? What it is it's here's El Capitan, right? Here's what it looks like, um, powered by MI300A, and then you can see the modular triplet design of it, um, and you can see how you have three CPU chiplets with 8 cores each, and then six accelerator dies or XCDs with 38 CUs each, on top of 256 megabytes of SRAM on the four base tiles, which then go out to 128 gigabytes of HBM3E, which give you approximately 5.3 terabytes of memory bandwidth theoretically. Um, and then, yep. So that gives. So in theory, MI300A can have a total of 61.3 teraflops of FP64 vector, along with and if you do FP64 matrix, then it's doubled to 122.6 teraflops. Um, and beyond just the massive so one of the advantages beyond just the massive on paper FP64 compute is because you have the GPU and the CPU running through with having a unified memory ad, not memory address space, but unified memory in a single NUMA node. You don't have to worry about stuff like copies or um, yes, essentially. You don't have to worry about having to transfer data off a PCIe bus. So there's a lot of code that isn't just GPU compute bound, but is n- bottlenecked on the transfer of data between the CPU and GPU. And then regular CPU code will also benefit from the added bandwidth that MI300A can provide. So so what that is that's one of the El Capitan blades. That has two nodes in it. Each node has four AMD 300As in it. Um, and then the network going out. So if you see the little green things, um, those are your NICs, right? There's essentially 4 of them. Sorry, 8 of them. So a NIC is a network interface chip, right? It's your Ethernet. These are your Ethernet cards. Um, in total, the blade has 1.6 terabits of networking. Um, and each node has 800 gigabit networking out to the network, for a total of 100 gigabytes per node. And to talk about the internode bandwidth, the total internode bandwidth is 384 gigabytes per second per direction between all the APUs, or 786, excuse me, 768 gigabytes per second total bandwidth.
Yeah.
Now, what that is on the screen right now is the total rack. Just scrolled up, and
Yeah,
getting to the numbers.
otherwise or else go through it.
Getting to the network, sorry, the top 500 list. As you can see, El Capitan has a R max of 1.742 exaflops, with an R peak of 2.792 exaflops of FP64, using a power of
29.6 megawatts.
Yep.
But the point here is the ones in yellow are the new systems,
And
right?
they're all AMD. Now, if you notice, there's some new systems, but also some updated results for older systems. So, Frontier, speaking of the
Fridge, yeah.
gained approximately 150 petaflops, which, by the way, that's almost number 11 just on its own in the gain that it's gotten. So now it's at 1.35 exaflops of R peak.
So one of the criticisms for El Capitan, as George takes a drink, is that the efficiency wasn't high. As in, when we talk about efficiency, we're not talking about flops per watt. We're talking about R max divided by R peak. Because usually, sometimes that's used as an indication of how much can you get out of the system that you've deployed. And a normal supercomputer does around 65 to 75%. It's annoying because we've seen some CPU systems get really high, we've seen some CPU only systems get really low. But in the same context, we've also seen GPU systems do that. El Capitan is 62%, which is slightly lower than people expected. The reasoning here, to a certain extent, is we need to optimize it.
Yeah.
Right, essentially.
Right. New system, big new system. It's going to take time for them to.
However, if I remember correctly, Azure, who have Eagle, which is number 4 on the list, last year's number three, they got an optimized run within 3 days.
Yes, but the efficiency was about the same. It was about 60%, if I remember correctly.
No, I think it was 70.
Or for Eagle?
Yeah, no, because out of the whole top 15, I've done. El Capitan is actually one of the lowest.
I know that Tuolumene is 72%, which is more in line with what Frontier is. Though what's interesting is that Frontier, in terms of efficiency, went down.
Yeah.
So
so when you add stuff, you may not be adding stuff at exactly the same CPU to GPU ratio, CPU GPU memory. I don't think everything was added, in the 2 to 6 or 2 to 8?
No, it would be, well, depending on how you want to cut the mustard. For Frontier, it's one CPU to one Trento CPU, which is Milan with extra stuff in the IOD for XGMI. So unified memory space between the CPU and GPU. You had 4 MI250Xs, which, depending on how you want to cut the mustard, is essentially 2 GPUs in one package. So you could say it's 1 to 8 or 1 to 4.
Almost semantics at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's most of there's still most of the systems on the top 500 are CPU based, CPU only. Where I think I know for June this year it was about 174 out of 500.
Yeah.
New systems are trending more towards being accelerator,
Mm-hmm.
so CPU plus GPU, or in the case of my 308 APU.
Mm-hmm.
And no new Chinese systems again.
Anyone surprised?
And this argument keeps coming up: is there a point to the top 500 if people don't submit and they have access to some of these systems? Um, but then in the same breath, some people do play games with the top 500. So if you have 10 very high performance racks,
Mm-hmm.
how many different configurations of 9 racks can you make to submit to the top 500?
Yeah.
Um, and then you just turn around and say, actually, no, it's proprietary architecture. Yeah, and people play those games and it's really annoying. But it almost makes the top 500 not worth looking at, but the top 10 is, or the top 50,
So
top 100.
okay, I'm
Or actually,
gonna take.
you get cloud things like Eagle, which don't have power numbers, so you
So,
can tell.
so that was actually, they did actually have power numbers. They just didn't.
No, the people who ran the benchmark,
Hmm.
because they were the cloud people,
Yeah.
didn't have access to the power numbers. There's
Yes.
a different team.
Yes. Yes. Um.
You've got the El Capitan. They probably can't hear this.
Yeah. So you have the El Capitan numbers, and then that's Tulamine or Tualamine, excuse me, which is number 10 on the list. Um, and then there's also a third system at Lawrence Livermore called RZ Adams. That's a much small. That's a single rack or cabinet of El Capitan. And then not all of the new MI300A systems are in the US. The number three efficiency on the top on the green 500 list is Ad Astra 2. That's also an MI300A based system. At numbers 1 and 2 are
Hang on. What the number 3 system here that's not in the US? Where is it?
France.
So that's in France. I know that one of the German universities is getting a big 300A system as well.
Yes, so that's Max Planck,
Yeah,
if memory serves. Also, the Naval Institute is getting one.
yeah.
Um,
But I wanted to bring this up because this is the Green 500. This is a list on how energy efficient. So we're taking R max over power
mhm.
essentially, and it's a list that used to be dominated by AMD this time last year.
Yes.
Lots of MI250Xs,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting to a point now where it definitely is accelerator based.
Mm-hmm.
However, Nvidia is taking a number of spots with Nvidia Grace.
Specifically,
Grace
Grace
Hopper.
Hopper.
Yeah, so this is the GH100.
Yes, or GH200.
GH.
There's no GH100.
Okay, so yeah, a GH 200. Again, the point being that if you closely couple the CPU and GPU,
Mm-hmm.
either in a 300A type system or a Grace Hopper type system,
Mm-hmm.
turns out it's a really good Linpack system.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, the fourth system on that list is Isambard-AI Phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
That I believe is just a CPU only Grace system,
Is it? Okay.
and I'm actually going to go see that in Q1.
Oh, okay.
So you may have seen a video from Patrick Kennedy about Elon Musk's XAI 100,000 GPU Colossus supercomputer,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't submit
No.
to point to the there are systems that don't submit. Some of them are foreign. Some of them are Chinese. Some of them are machine learning based.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he did a video there, but he couldn't really talk much about what the system was doing.
So to clarify, it's um
Well, hang on.
the
Let me finish
AI
this point.
phase.
Let me finish this point. Um, yeah, he. So Patrick went and did the Colossus system and did a video on it, but he couldn't say much about what it was used for, what it's going to be used for, because it's a private corporation with a big system deploying. Because Isambard is run at the Bristol Computing Centre,
Mm-hmm.
it's government driven, it's academic driven. So it means I'm going to be able to talk about what codes are run on it,
Mm-hmm.
how difficult it's been to port those codes. The team that's running software on it used to be running software on a ThunderX2 system,
Mm-hmm.
right? So still AMD based, but this time it's going
Based.
or ARM based. Sorry, yeah, the other A company.
Eh.
Yeah, so they already have ARM codes. The difference being is that now they can leverage the LPDDR of Grace and
Yes.
the access to that. But Isambard-AI is the Grace system. It's Isambard 3, which is still being built.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be Grace Hopper based, and that's like a £200 million
So
installation.
the Isambard AI Phase 1 is Grace Hopper. It's GH200 and it's using the same Cray blades that it's effectively using a Cray version
It says on
of
there Grace.
yes,
It
it's
says on the website
GH200
Grace of Super.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay. So Bristol's going to have a Grace and a Grace Hopper.
yep, and this is the Grace Hopper
Yeah. Okay. That's
notes.
weird.
Um
But yeah, it's point being that there's lots of ability for variance and variation here.
mhm.
But it essentially whoever has the more efficient chip or CPU GPU combo and who runs Linback gets on this. But the top 500, right? The number one system there, Jedi, is actually what 224 in the top 500 for. So efficient systems aren't always the biggest ones.
Yeah,
Right. They typically sit in the mid hundreds and stuff. So
I actually think that Jedi is actually sort of a perfect encapsulation of this. Jedi as I think this is a single node, single rack at the top one. So at 72.73 gigaflops per watt is number one. However, if you scroll down a bit, if you look at the number 6 spot, that's Jedi Jupiter Exascale Transition Instrument, and that's at 67.96 gigaflops per watt. And the reason for that is it's a bigger system. So it's a much bigger system. It's not quite 20x, but not far off. Um, so you can also sort of, I hesitate to use the word play games, but you can do some funky math here.
interesting.
Yeah. Now the next I guess list to talk about is the HPL M. Okay. Well, no, because Aurora made news.
Yes, speak about Aurora.
Yeah, so on the HPL-MxP benchmark, um, which is LinPath but mixed precision, Aurora has taken the number one spot from Frontier. Aurora has scored 11.6 exaflops, and Frontier has scored a new score of 11.4 exaflops. And I guess the only news for the HPCG list is that for the fourth year running, number one is still Fukaku, which used to be the number one supercomputer in the world. And as far as the HPCG benchmark is, it is still the number one benchmark in the world. So they want to. It's so why is an LCAP on the HPL MXP and HPCG lists? The reason is because they wanted to get it up and running and testing and getting all their applications working on it. They wanted to get it to work as fast as they could. So yeah, and that sort of goes back to why did they run HPL? It's a great systems test to make sure that everything's working. Um, so, and if you don't mind me jumping back a little bit to Jedi and the upcoming Jupiter, that's the exascale system,
Mm.
and it's going to be primarily using GH200 as its main
So
compute.
that's the European
Yes,
exascale system.
it's going to be in the Jülich Supercomputing Center. Did I
Yep.
completely butcher that?
Jülich.
Jülich
I don't know.
Supercomputing Center in Germany.
I'm pretty sure the tagline is "You lick this and you lick that."
So the primary compute will be coming from the GH200s
Yeah.
in the system. But there will be a partition of Cyperl Rhea CPUs. Now, we've been hearing about this for a while.
So, the short and curlies. There is a European exascale supercomputing project to which a startup called SciPearl formed to create CPUs for it. They have arguably been underfunded. No consistent or coherent messaging has come out of them about much.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that they're creating an ARM-based CPU called Rhea,
Mm-hmm.
built on TSMC N6,
Yes.
using Neoverse V1.
Yes, V1.
So old Neoverse cores
Yes.
at this point. And every time you try and speak to them, they don't understand what media is
No. So and
or why they should care,
yeah.
why they should maybe perhaps engage with anyone at any point. Um, Sorry, academics gonna academic, engineers gonna engineers. When you're an institution like that that don't plan on selling outside of one customer,
Yeah.
it's really frustrating. Sorry, if you're anybody from the Raya team, if anybody from Cypearl is watching, we've tried to talk to you,
Yeah,
and
it's
you've
like
just
it's like
it,
a brick wall.
it's not even a brick wall. It's like phantasm engagement. We might as well be in parallel universes vibrating at different frequencies.
uh,
It's I don't know if that's a European thing or a mainland Europe thing. Um, because so many there are there are places that do the same thing that Cypearl is trying to do with Raya for like Korea
mm-hmm,
and Japan and even in the US, and they all want to talk to us.
mm-hmm.
They all want to
Even
explain what they're doing.
even Fujitsu, which is historically a fairly
Yeah,
non
well,
PR focused company,
be conservative with information.
they've been talking about their chip in 2027. I just did a short. I know that you did coverage last year when when they announced it.
Yeah, the Fujitsu Monarca
Yeah.
2 nanometer plus 5 nanometer
Yes, it's a
chiplet phase.
2 nanometer core die, 5 nanometer SRAM die beneath that, and then a 5 nanometer IO die.
But the point is, they talk to
Yeah,
us,
we know that information, right?
right?
They will say what's upcoming 3 years into the future. 3 years ago, when you were covering Rhea, it was 72 cores, and now it's 80, right? So we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and nobody wants to bother to speak to anyone in the media aside from maybe some local person
Yeah,
who doesn't understand what chip design or what chip design means or what physical design is or yeah. Oh no, also a few years ago it was going to be DDR or LPDDR, and now it's HBM.
yes.
Um, yeah, and it's got SVE. I'm not sure if it was meant to have SVE before.
Yeah, if it was V1, then it had SVE, yeah.
Yeah, it's anyway.
And so first samples in 2025.
It's a bit late,
Yeah, for especially for something
but all
because
all said and told, well, also it's off the shelf ARM cores,
yeah,
but it's not a CSS solution because they
no.
started designing it way too early.
Well, it's not just that. It's I know.
So CSS, for those who don't know, is ARM's turnkey, as in we've essentially designed it. All you have to do is go and build it, sort of solution. And Microsoft, Google, and a few others have adopted the CSS platform for
Yes.
servers. It's basically a way to reduce your engineering costs in exchange for a bit more money, but they're
Yeah.
not doing that.
Well, yeah. So I know. So I think let me go check because when you did coverage, I can't remember exactly when they started talking. When,
Well, no, they didn't start speaking to us. What happened was a politician went round the offices, and part of their PR team posted pictures online that just happened to have a poster that says Raya,
okay.
right? And so
Yeah.
it's a design leak, and it was literally a floor plan layout in on the wall
Mm-hmm.
from
2020.
yeah, and it was just a politician looking
And
around the offices,
and
which is so. But again, I kind of want to say Europe. This is just the sort of thing that just passes a team by when they're not concerned about what coverage they get.
well, and not just that, right? So I know when they started talking about it, they're like, we'll be HBM, will be unique on the market. And then A64FX showed up and they weren't unique anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, but we'll still be selling merchant silicon and not just for one supercomputer.
Mm.
Well, one, Fujitsu also sold some merchant silicon,
Yep.
but two, ever since then, we've had Sapphire Rapids HBM or the CPU Max Xeon CPU Max line, and now with the Azure announcement with MI300C or the EPYC 9V64H,
We'll get to that in a second because it's an important piece of
we
news.
have yet another HBM CPU. Now that's not merchant silicon as far as I know, but still, it's like you're not doing anything the market hasn't already beaten you to.
Okay, so let's change tack and talk about some interesting news that came. So this week, not only was it Supercomputing, it was also Microsoft Ignite, which
Mhm.
is their own custom event. They announced some new silicon to do with networking.
Oh, did they?
Yep, this is us. Um,
Oh.
yeah, but one of the other things they announced is a new instance called HBV5. This instance uses the fabled cancelled MI300C, which is the all CPU version of the GPU.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 128 gigabytes of HBM 3
Mm-hmm.
with uh, I want to say 96 Zen 4 cores in a unique scenario. And I say unique because AMD has said it's only for Microsoft, it's only for those instances. They have no plans to offer it anyone else any further. Um, so in order to get one or get access to one, you have to go get cloud resources.
Yes.
So
I'm trying to find the news.
it's all right. I'll send you it. But so
Okay.
so what's your opinion on this?
So I think it's really cool. A tiny bit sad that it won't be sold to other partners, but I do understand why you wouldn't want sort of a mainstream version of this because it's going to be very expensive, right? This was not cheap to produce. Um, but I think it's how do I put this? I think it's AMD. I think AMD made the product regardless. I think that they made it. They weren't my gut says that they weren't planning on productizing it until Microsoft said, we may want some of that. How about you sell us
Yeah,
some?
we
And
we had definitely had the impression that a it was on the roadmap, but then they realized they weren't going to get any customers for it for the
yeah,
amount of engineering work it would take.
yeah,
And Microsoft basically said, "Well, we'll pay for the
yeah.
engineering work,"
We'll bankroll it and we'll see what comes out of it. And
which is fairly normal
yeah,
in this industry. Um, you rarely hear about it, and I, to be honest, speaking a bit with Microsoft and speaking a bit with AMD, they didn't really want to make too much of a fuss about it. It's just, well, people in the clouds, they don't care what the chip is. They just care about how many cores, what's the performance, how much memory,
mhm.
what's the bandwidth, and what it's connected to, and how much storage you have. and what architecture it is, whether it's x86 or ARM. They don't care what the chip is.
Yes. Also, I'm
But
reading Gunny 1972's comment in the chat, and it's making me laugh.
yeah,
So
Eh, yeah, and Cybot says, did they perhaps make the contract before cancelling it, so they had to make it? The thing is, some work had been done. So whether it was before they said, let's focus on something else, or whether it's after,
mm,
the only thing is perhaps some of those engineers might have been moved on to other projects.
yeah, well, so in terms of the actual engineering, I don't know how much engineering they would have actually needed, more other than validation work.
Right, so I've got some more information here, and I've sent you
Okay.
this link.
Okay.
All right, so it's the EPYC 9V64H.
Yes.
V because it's Azure.
Yes.
Any EPYC with a V in it is Azure. The fact that it's H is interesting.
HBM.
H for HBM,
Mhm.
not the 45-watt version, which would have been funny. SMT is disabled.
Yep. And
So it's one core, one thread.
mm-hmm.
There's 352 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
So it's 352 cores in a node. What it is it's 88 cores per chip. So there's 96 physical cores. So it's the same 12 triplets as you would see on the 9654, except 8 of the CPUs are reserved for the hypervisor.
yeah.
Um
Yeah, so that's just cloud control
yeah.
basically.
Well,
Yeah, not cloud control.
no.
Cloud control. It's using Nvidia Quantum to InfiniBand,
Mhm.
but also the Azure Boost NIC, 14 terabytes of local NVMe storage. Yeah, and I'm trying to find if there's any more information about it. There's a couple of articles, Serve the Home and HPC Wire.
Mhm.
Microsoft has a very, very short blog, again, because they
Yeah.
don't really want to talk about it. But yeah, it's another HBM CPU, and long may they continue.
Yes.
The problem with HBM CPUs, and why you may never see one in a workstation, whether it's CPU Max or this one or
Mhm.
anything else, is those chips won't pass Energy Star regulations, which you need for consumer products, uh, because idle power consumption of HBM is quite high in
Mm.
these situations. Thing is, idle power consumption of a HBM enabled GPU.
Mhm.
We've had HBM on GPUs before.
Yes.
Hasn't been too bad.
No.
But they're saying that the idle power of one of these chips is about 100 watts because
Hmm.
of the HBMs. That's why you'll never find it in a workstation. Um, also, these must be sold in OEM form factor, the
Yes.
MI300Cs,
No. So
or are they socketable,
no. They.
or are they
So
BGA?
I took a picture. Um. Uh.
Show me, and
So
we'll give everybody FOMO.
it's effectively. So have you seen MI300A?
Yes.
It's MI300. It's the SH5 socket, which physically is identical to the SP5 socket found in the standard EPYC,
So it's
Genoa, and Turin CPUs.
yeah.
However, this is electrically different because of the different
Yeah.
pins that you have at the bottom.
But it is a socketable processor.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yep.
Yeah, you also need some big ass cooling.
Yes.
I assume this must be 560 watts. So the GPU goes up to 560 or
so
750 under liquid.
so MI300A, the power numbers for that is 550 watts air or 760 watts water.
Hmm.
I presume that they're running MI300C at either 500, 550 watts.
Yep.
Um, so
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's it's the CPU we always wanted, but you can only get it in one place.
so speaking of that, so for MI300A, I keep telling AMD to sell a dev kit.
No,
And it okay. Can I give you my reason?
I just told you it won't pass Energy Star certification. It can only be
Do
sold as a
you
server.
So you sell it as a server. You
Yeah.
sell it as a server board,
Well, yeah. Just
and you just label it a dev kit.
no, because that's up to the OEMs to do.
Okay, but my point is,
Well, okay. MI300C.
mhm,
You were having this discussion about memory bandwidth and
yes,
CPU loading.
yes,
So,
okay.
so explain what that's all about and why it matters.
So if you look at the memory bandwidth numbers of a single node, it's 7 terabytes per second aggregate, which seems very low compared to what a single MI300A should, MI300C should be able to do, which is 5.3 terabytes per second, or the same memory bandwidth as the rest of the MI300 family. However, your bottleneck here is going to be your Infinity Fabric links because they're using the same GMI links as they did with um, the standard CPUs. It's just a lot smaller because now you can package it using TSVs. But they're using the um, two two GMI links, which is 64 bytes per cycle read and 32 bytes per cycle write.
But I think the key a key element here is you can't issue enough instructions from the CPU to saturate the memory
No, you
bandwidth.
can.
You can?
You can. Your bottleneck is the GMI interface. If you could somehow,
So that's chip to chip.
yes, it's if you could TSV the L3 straight onto the Infinity cache,
Yeah.
you could absolutely saturate the 5.3 terabytes per second
Hmm.
because you can saturate about 700 it's about 7 to 900. I don't remember exactly what
Yeah.
it's 3.7 times 32 bytes, whatever that is,
Hmm.
of L3. So if you could do that on a single chiplet, that's like 700 or maybe about a terabyte. Multiply that by 12, you're well over 5.3 terabytes per second memory bandwidth.
Yeah.
So that's not the issue. The issue is that they're reusing the GMI links um
Mm.
as a
Yeah.
yeah. Um
So just to move it on, the other silicon that Microsoft announced,
mhm,
we already said a networking silicon.
mhm.
So that's Azure Boost, the DPU. But also they did a hardware security module, HSM, that's to be paired with Cobalt and Maia. So that's
Okay.
just system
I
security stuff.
wonder I wonder if the DPU is based off fungible IP. Because they acquired Fungible, what, 2, 3 years ago?
I thought they mothballed that division. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Mm.
Maybe. Um, uh, I know AWS has its own networking topology
Well, that's
called Nitro.
yeah, that's their own DPU. I don't know what the topology
Well,
is.
yeah, it means you can do multiple CPUs using one NIC, and the security and other stuff that comes in. Google has a bunch of its own networking stuff. Some of it being really funky, like optical mirror.
Yeah, well, I also know that they're using Mount Evans DPUs.
Yeah, which is the Intel custom built DPU.
Yeah. Excuse me, one.
Oh, there's my back gone. No. Oh, yeah. So, uh, yeah, and then yeah, hardware security module. Again, that all came out of Microsoft Ignite. Um, and then we should before we go into the other stuff about supercomputing, the other
Mhm.
news was from Nvidia. Nvidia held a special address
Yep.
on Monday or Tuesday. They announced the new NVL4.
Yes.
So that's two Grace CPUs, four Blackwell GPUs, all on
Mhm.
one PCB, 5.4 kilowatts. So the point being that you can have one thermal plate
Yeah.
across all of them, but also you have the high-speed connectivity of them all being in the same on the same substrate or on the same PCB.
So I actually don't know what the NVLink.
the situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the MVL4 is just meant to be sort of like as a standalone 2U or
Okay.
4U system.
But is it networked? So is it networked like it's a four node thing, or is it networked like it's
Two Grace Blackwell.
yeah, two independent systems, or is it networked like it's one big system
It's
basically?
never like it's one big system.
Okay. So
I mean, it can also be partitioned.
yes, no, but I mean, do you have NVL links between the great the
Yes.
Blackwells?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was part of their address earlier. Okay.
Okay.
So let's move on to supercomputing the show,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that was kind of like the head. Those were the headline press release announcements that came out. So everything else was kind of, let's get on the show floor and have a look. Let's go walk around. Let's go to our meetings. Let's uh, randomly come across stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we found a small hack in order to get access to the show floor a little bit early.
Yeah.
You know, I do some work with some of these companies, so I got an exhibitor pass as part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Did some doing some paid work, obviously. So they wanted me on the show floor on the startup day, but also earlier in the morning. So I had both a press pass and an exhibitor pass to do that. Because at some points I'm doing exhibitor things, some point I'm doing press things, and that also meant I got a chance to walk on the show floor from end to end in like I say, in about 3.5 hours on the first day. Um, we both had stuff to do one of the mornings that we had, so we had to go in early for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It also means you miss the traffic
Yes.
going in. Um, Traffic going out when the show floor closes is insane. They did actually put
Absolutely.
buses up to hotels,
Mm.
but not my hotel.
Okay.
A 20-minute walk, but aside from the one day it rained was fine. Um, but no, it's supercomputing. Everybody's there for the advancement of science, right?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't this overriding buy our stuff that comes from, 30 different memory vendors. It's
Yeah.
people saying, here's a new solution and here's how it makes the world better, which I like.
Yes.
Um, so uh, this is your second supercomputing. You've been to ISC, but this is your second
Yes.
supercomputing.
Yes. Uh,
Aside from the size, what made this one different?
so I can't speak for the event in its totality, but what I can say is that a major difference, at least for me personally, has been that chips and cheese has been a lot more well known in the industry. The name has gotten around a lot more. So a lot more people wanted to say like figure out essentially wanted to meet and wanted to figure out who we were and what do we stand for. So it was a lot more busy for me. Um, uh, and we are, it,
You were getting stopped and asked questions, weren't
yes, so I was stopped and asked questions in my hotel elevator.
you?
Uh,
But you also bumped into Forrest Norrod in the hotel elevator, didn't you, as well?
I'm at my hotel
Oh, yeah,
elevator,
right.
right? Well, no, I did. To be fair, we were there for an AMD and for
Yeah,
the
briefing for the El Capitan
yeah for
briefing.
the yeah. So running into Forest, of course, like that was gonna happen.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. Aside from being more recognized,
mhm.
and being a face, what else?
um,
A trend from last year to this year.
so okay, I think a trend that stuck was that I got a lot of emails from cooling companies.
Yeah. Okay. So broadly speaking, there are plenty of positives and negatives, and we'll get to the
Mhm.
positive in a second. One of the negatives is that as we go in and as we register as media and analysts, we get added to the media and analyst lists, which means the companies that pay the organizers to get hold of those lists can essentially send out mail blasts.
Mhm.
And this is great for companies that have something to say, because sometimes it'll mean you'll get press releases early or you'll get
Mhm.
briefings. However, this year, not only were half the emails from cooling and immersion cooling companies, and really immersion cooling isn't really a thing, you can stop now. The first emails from Valvoline,
Yeah.
so the oil and lubricants company saying we've got a new immersion cooling liquid. Do you want to have a chat about it?
Yeah.
To which I said, you can't even sell immersion cooling systems, let
Yeah.
alone immersion cooling liquids. Why do you think you have a market here? But whatever.
And then BP Castrol.
Yeah, BP Castrol was there, but again,
Mhm.
it's you very quickly realize that you only have so much brain space at an event this size.
Yes, and it's like I have to pick and choose.
Right, and if you're a cooling guru and that's all you do, and all you look at is chassis and fans and cooling performance, like some people do on YouTube,
Fair
that's
enough.
fine. Go nuts on
Mhm.
the intricacies of fluorinated ethylene glycol derivatives, of which there is an absolute metric fuck ton out
Yeah.
there. Anything from the OG3M Novec to through all the PFAS, which are going to get banned eventually
I
anyway.
think in a year they're getting banned.
Yeah, unless the new administration cancels that. Um,
No, I think it takes effect January 1st.
yeah, but it could
So,
be reversed on by inauguration day. Let's see.
ugh,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
to the the new ones that are meant to replace it. Go nuts. I'm not there for that.
Yeah.
And as I'm pretty sure I didn't highlight cooling in the emails you want to receive. You sign up.
Yeah, no. In quantum either. Quantum.
Well, so quantum has been at supercomputing for a fair few years now,
Mhm.
and there was a period of time where the attendance for supercomputing was declining.
Yes.
And so, in order to counteract that, as an events company who wants to sell floor space, you invite more things adjacent to what you are doing.
Mhm.
And right, so right now it's machine learning, obviously.
Yes.
So now you get machine learning companies who have nothing to do with HPC on the show floor. But there was a point in time where we had quantum,
Mhm.
and so now quantum is on the show floor. There are a dozen companies that are constantly there every year, and I done a couple of videos on them last year about this. So they're there. And the same argument applies, right? Almost. At least quantum has a route to revenue, and some companies in that space are making money. Whether it's the quantum hardware manufacturers like Blue Force who do
Mhm.
the chandeliers,
Yep.
or whether it's the quantum as a service in the cloud sort of people.
I think that's IBM's approach.
Well, no, there's a few of others. And
Okay.
then, D-Wave had some announcements this week about their 1,000 qubit, and IBM had some announcements last week about their 1,000 qubit processors and a variety of couplers. There's another video I might put on the to-do list, and given that next week is Thanksgiving, I might actually have time to do it. Yeah, so quantum's there. I'm not too fast because quantum kind of stays in its own area.
Mhm.
The cooling was pretty much in every corner
Everywhere.
of the you
Yeah.
couldn't get around it.
So
At least they weren't aggressive and trying to put flyers in your face saying you want to have a chat.
that was last year.
Yeah,
Last year
last year they were,
was
they were aggressive.
well. In last year, they didn't have their own booth. It was a lot more. It was in almost every booth everywhere, so to speak.
Yeah.
This year they had dedicated booths, so I actually felt like there was less presence, which I kind of preferred because
Mm. It's Gunny writes in the chat, quantum computing is liquid helium immersed computing. No, no, it's lower than that
yeah, it's
because you've got to have expansion chillers beyond that.
yeah,
So it's below 4 Kelvin. Right. It's we're talking about millikelvin, right? I've got a video about this where where it shows some of the temperatures that they're doing quantum computing in. But yeah,
Also, I
no, no, no,
apologize for yawning so much. I
it's
am
been a long
really
week.
tired.
Okay, so that's a negative about the show. You've done said two. When I said what's changing the show, you went straight to the negatives.
Well,
Is that the sort of person you are, George?
I don't think being busy is necessarily negative.
Right?
I
Sorry.
never said that that was a negative.
What? All the cooling companies?
No. Being
No. But
you said what changed,
yeah,
and I said being being more well known,
being recognized. Yeah,
right? Being a lot more busy,
yeah.
right? Not necessarily negatives, right?
I know.
Positives, right? And then the cooling and quantum companies,
Okay.
right? I consider that one thing in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess a good thing was just sort of the amount of activity, right? I think
What
there,
do you mean?
even though the floor was bigger,
Mhm.
it felt, it both felt, how do I put this? Like,
It felt less dense.
it felt less dense, yet there were still people abuzz. Like, there was still good conversations going on. There was still plenty of people around,
Mm-hmm.
and but it was not so densely packed that you couldn't sit down, have a break, and just
Mm.
talk with not just people at a booth, but
In the
yeah,
corridors, at having food.
yeah.
Last year, I remember because I had to film some videos on the show floor.
Hmm.
It got so loud because there were so many people around because it was so dense. This year, it was there was the one instance I felt like it was too loud and my battery had run out
Hmm.
was at the 2 hour opening on Monday. Yeah, that's from 7 to 8:30, seven
Yeah,
to nine.
that's always incredibly busy.
So that's basically after the opening ceremony. They open the show floor for a couple of hours so people can have a look around.
Hmm.
But it's also where a lot of people they also put food out and drink. So a lot of people are eating, a lot of people are drinking, a lot of people are talking. How much business goes on during that time? There isn't much because also people are seeing people that they haven't seen in a couple of months or a couple of years or whatever.
So what I did on Monday was I essentially went around to the booths that I wanted
You
to.
were able to walk through the places where it was really busy. Oh, the other time it gets busy is when a booth is doing a giveaway,
Yes.
and that's really annoying because
When Dell decides to show a new, I don't know if it's a new Mad Max movie or what.
oh, do you want to talk about the mountain?
Oh, yes. So VDURA, formerly Parnassus, flew in the mountain from the Game of Thrones show. I can't remember the actual his actual name, but
Um, wasn't he something?
uh, I don't remember. But he
I,
did a world record.
I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've only seen it through shorts
I've
and
never,
30 seconds at a
I've
time.
I've never even seen it
Yeah.
30 seconds at a time. But yeah, he did a world record, I think, lift.
Uh, so I understood he was at least matching the world record, but it
Okay.
wasn't done under official conditions.
Yeah.
But the thing is, no, actually, I don't think it was a world record because to do a world record, it actually really takes it out of you.
Yeah.
Um, it may have been a world record for lifting server equipment because they had they had two server
No,
chassis, didn't they?
no, it
Eh,
wasn't even that kind of.
Oh well,
It was just weights. It
yeah,
was just basic weights.
yeah. Uh, but that drew in a massive crowd of people, which I managed to miss. But apparently he also stayed for autographs and photos and
No,
selfies and stuff. Actually, I know what was good about that happening.
Mhm.
At the booth, they had caffeinated beverages,
Yes.
so I ended up with a couple of those.
Um, but yeah, so but we met somebody who, uh, if you could show the picture,
We met somebody the same height
yeah,
as the mountain. Okay,
and
yeah. There's plenty of people there.
yes, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
So there was a chips and cheese dinner that happened, and uh
Friends of the cheese.
yeah, so
Friends of the cheese.
so this person who's as tall as the mountain shows up, and at the end of the night, Ian's like, "I'm going to try something," because we were making fun.
Oh,
For
yeah, because there's a historic photo of me and Forrest Norrod
yes,
where it looks like I'm a child and he's an adult.
oh,
Because the height difference. So we thought, let's recreate this. I decided to try something else. So I said to you and a couple of others, okay, take a photo, but give me a countdown.
yes,
And when the countdown happened, I did a run and I just tried to jump to try and match his height.
yes,
I beat him by an inch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. They say white boys can't jump. Well, I can't, but I did jump at least as high as he did. As high as he
Yeah,
is normally.
yeah.
Um,
So quite a funny picture of Ian jumping.
yeah, yeah.
to try and
Maybe
match.
they'll go on social at some point. Um,
Um,
so
yeah, somebody has a cable on top of rack.
uh, so in terms of swag, because let's talk about event swag.
Mm,
Um, everybody or attendees and press, not exhibitors,
mm,
got a bag.
mm,
The SC24 bag. These are actually, fairly decent quality. And color, because they're doing, sort of the burnt phoenix type color scheme,
mhm.
are actually quite nice.
Oh,
Um, and no, yeah, no, this is looks like actually
okay.
it's got a section for a notebook, it's got a section for a tablet and cables. This is a lot better than some of the others.
I will say that I think the 2023 bag is more spacious.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? How much can they spend on kind of
Yes,
swag for each person? $40,
maybe.
$20,
Yeah.
especially buying in bulk. There's like a little SC24 thing here on the screen,
Mhm.
and you get the logo, and that's fine. They had a merch booth as they do every year.
Yes. I
Um,
got a cup.
you got or mug. You got a mug.
Yep.
I got a t-shirt kind of like this one because this one has holes in it. To replace this, I would have got a hoodie, but I still have my Supercomputing 2020
Mm.
hoodie to St. Louis, which I didn't go to.
Meh.
Patrick Kennedy got that for me.
Mm.
I managed to get this at the AWS booth, a T-shirt that says "Nerd," and you may have seen in a few videos. I've got a hoodie that says HPC Nerds.
Mhm.
That's more in brown. But here, above the nerd, there's got a bunch of phrases that spell out that use the letters HPC. So, high-powered coffee,
Highly perishable code.
hoarding processor cycles, hexadecimal party crew, um, human processor cyborg. So if you really wanted to go around with a T-shirt that says nerd, uh, which is more indicating that you're beaten up as a young kid. Is it the one that says nerd, or is it the Intel one that says 1000100010?
Oh.
Yeah, it's you know, it mixed mixed reactions to that. Here's the one from Intel, who they actually only had Excel when I
That's what I did for a hat. That's a heat spreader. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Got it in the chat. You are 100% correct.
so we mentioned at the top of the show, Moritz, who is in the chat, has software called Fluid X3D. They did a T-shirt with one of his simulations on
Mm.
the Fluid X3D.
That's the 117 billion parameter.
Yeah, which is it's not Concorde, it's a Speedbird or Speedjet or something.
It's the NASA X559.
Yeah.
Um,
So this has a tagline: advancing AI, accelerating HPC.
Now, so I will say that Advancing AI was the name of the AMD event that they held.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is too big for me. I might use it as pajamas,
Yeah.
sleepwear. Uh, it doesn't feel like it's made of cotton though. Probably not. No, 95% polyester, 5% spandex. Yeah, they don't recommend wearing that in case your house catches on fire and it just melts on you. So we'll see. We'll see what I use for that. I mean, other swag really. I got a microfiber cloth from a company. Yeah, so Cornelis Networks. So this is the company that's taken over from Intel's Omnipar.
Yep.
I've covered them a bit on the channel already.
Have a shortcoming.
The fun thing is Cornelis, and I keep moving this about, so you probably can't see it. The new CEO of Cornelis Networks is Lisa Spellman, who used to run Intel Xeon Group. As I know, because you met her this week as well. So she is taking that company that was, a little unfocused after the spin out from Intel a few years ago, and the goal is let's go productize, let's actually make them have a roadmap, let's have the right messaging. So you may see some more content from me on that because Lisa's really fun to speak to. She does know what she's speaking about. She does understand the market.
Yes.
I know that when I interviewed her for Xeon, years back, a couple of people were really annoyed that the discussion wasn't technical enough. And Lisa can speak technical, right?
Yes.
Right.
But she knows when she can and she can't. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. You have to ask the right questions, and I was still, learning my trade. But I like working with Lisa because not only because back in the day she also had Intel Optane earrings based on Optane modules. First thing I said to her in her new role is, "Where are your Omnipath earrings?" Or we need an Omnipath belt buckle, that sort of thing. So we'll see there. I'm wearing Samba Nova socks, but I got these at Hot Chips. I know there was some Tens Torrent socks flying around.
I should have worn my AMD socks that I got at the AI event, turret event. Excuse me. I think Ian's going to go get those. But yeah, it's been fun seeing how yeah, how do I put this? It's like SC has been
It's
uh
I clearly didn't bring my AMD socks, but I did find my supercomputing. For some reason I've bought one supercomputer 19 sock because I bought supercomputer socks because again they do merchandise here.
yeah,
It's one of you wouldn't go buy CES merchandise. I wouldn't buy Computex merchandise.
no. I would buy Hot Chips merchandise.
So I have a water bottle from Hot Chips 2014, 2015.
Uh-huh.
That is still a water bottle I use day to day. Or somebody in my family does day to day. The thing is, swag is hit and miss, because if you go to one event a year, you want to get it all,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a unique thing. You're probably preparing for it. If you go to multiple events a month, like I do sometimes, you don't need another notebook. You don't need another pen. You don't need another backpack. You don't need another t-shirt, he says, with two new t-shirts and a backpack.
You
You know,
you just you just remind me that one of my pens broke. Now it's out again.
oh,
Yeah, so the pen that I bought myself as a graduation present, uh, I I I accidentally got broken, and I'm still kind of upset about that because it happened uh on Saturday, which kind of really sucked.
this week.
Yes, it was on my birthday.
Oh,
It's when it broke.
birthday present.
Yes, a very good pen.
So, uh, so this isn't swag, but this is the pen that won the Japanese 2024 Stationery Awards.
Yes.
For $10. It's called yeah, it's called like the Uniball 9C or 9B or something. Anyway, also swag, a badge that says "I love FPGAs." So I actually want to sell this on my merch store. I replace the heart with the logo, with the Tech Potato logo. So if you love FPGAs, here's the one to go to. And also I have a hat.
Yes. Somebody from NextSilicon gave him this hat after seeing the last tech Poutine, I believe, where Ian had all his hats.
So what does this hat say?
Make silicon next again.
Um, so if you're unaware, there is a new company in town. I did a video on them a couple of weeks ago called NextSilicon, with a really interesting um, dynamic optimization data flow, or whatever you want to call it, where they increase your HPC by learning how your code runs and then allocating resources to where it makes sense to improve performance. Um, we both did interviews with the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, they actually signed with me recently, so I'm going to be helping them a bit with their messaging on that. But even when that happens with the interviews, I make sure they're very informative and where they're going. I may have to go visit their headquarters soon, not only because they have a wide array of Commodores in the hallway, but because they're doing some really interesting stuff. And they were here on the show floor because they announced their Maverick 2 chip a couple of weeks ago. And it's because they're targeting HPC, one of the few new silicon companies that are. That's their conference for them, and they were getting a bunch of interest, especially from academic institutions. And now it's a case of they're going to be publishing some benchmark numbers in Q1, and we'll find out more. So we spent a good time at NextSilicon. We've spoken a little bit about Ayar Labs, GigaIO, which is, if you don't know that company, they're essentially doing composable infrastructure, almost like what CXL is trying to be, but without all the overheads of CXL. Doing it over PCIe. I've known them for a couple of years at this point. Their big news is that they've got a roadmap from PCIe 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 now, but also they can be used as a wrapper on top of CXL and Ethernet and InfiniBand.
Okay.
So the whole point is normally you have 8 GPUs in a box, to 2 CPUs and a certain amount of memory. And then if you want more, you have to have another box. But rather than that, why don't you just have both boxes act as one box with 2 CPUs to 16 GPUs, or perhaps you want more memory? And the whole point of composability means that you can compose essentially 42U into however many CPUs, however many GPUs, however much memory, however much storage you need, without having this, definitive host, server to server barrier. It now just combines into one. They actually showed off a system. I think I'll go through some photos in a bit. It's basically a suitcase with 6 servers in it connected up with this composable infrastructure. It's actually by a company called Gryph, Gryf. There's a retailer or an OEM called Source Code that's going to be selling it into Europe.
Oh, so what?
But so it's Gryph's product. And Source Code is a distributor, and it's using GigaIO technology. That's how it all ties in.
Okay.
But
And
you can have CPU, GPU, or
and remind me, source code used to be Boston.
Source Code acquired Boston.
Okay.
So not Boston Consulting Group, but and not Boston Dynamics, but Boston, the server distributor.
Okay. So Boston Limited, I believe they were called. Okay.
Um, let, let's go to some images. If you know what these
So, okay. So let's see. Supergate is, I believe they're doing like if I remember correctly, Supergate, they're doing like a build your own silicon thing.
So they have an ARM Neoverse CPU
Uh-huh.
that's doing autonomous driving.
Oh, because that's not what was
You may be thinking of another company.
maybe. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought that they were doing like think AMD semi-custom sort of thing. Okay. So that's Rebellions. That's Rebellions, the company. They used to do high frequency trading. As for their first gen chip, but their second gen chip called the Atom is more geared towards AI inferencing, and their third gen chip, the Rebel, is going to have HBM 144 gigabytes, at 4.8 terabytes per second of bandwidth.
So just clarify, their first chip for HFT was still an AI chip.
Okay.
But yeah, it's, I think it's important here to point out that Korean government plus all the major Korean companies have realized they need to invest in AI chips. So there are 6, 7, or 8 different Korean companies now doing silicon.
And if I remember correctly, Rebellions has merged with Sapion.
Or Sapion, I think.
Sapion.
Yeah.
Um,
So 2 become 1.
yes. And we didn't see any Sapion.
No, Sapion won.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what's that. Uh, this is a company that has advanced ray trace.
Yeah.
Because they weren't speaking about it.
Yeah. So,
Do you want to talk about this company?
it's clicking through. It's preferred networks. So, preferred is
Land on this picture because it's funny. Yeah.
eating the card again. So preferred networks, they do so back before Frontier hit the Green 500, their MN Core 1 was the #1 supercomputer in terms of efficiency. And now they're on MN Core 2, moving to MN Core 3 for inferencing. Um, and they did an announcement of a a chip coming in 2026 called the L1000 that's going to have 3D stacked DRAM on top of compute. So you know how the first generation of V-Cache from AMD was uh, the compute with SRAM stacked on top. Imagine compute with DRAM stacked on top.
You have one of those in your pocket.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. Your smartphone has DRAM stacked memory. It's
And
called,
technically, it's not on my pocket, but yeah.
but yeah, it's POP. But the
Yeah.
point, this is more TSV based,
Yes.
not just co-packaged
Yes.
based.
Yes.
Yeah, so preferred networks, from my perspective, because I first saw them, what, 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
It was me and David Shaw. We were literally just doing the literal last run around the show floor
Uh-huh.
at Supercomputing, and we saw this. Wait, what is this company? What is this doing? And there was a picture of the MN Core 1, which was, I think, 2,000 square millimeters of
Yeah.
silicon. It was 4 chiplets, almost like AMD's first generation Rome, but they were touching and in a square.
Yeah.
Um, at 500 watts, and you saw me eating that PCIe card.
Mm-hmm.
That was how it was packaged. It was a I think it even went triple width. So this is one of those 4 chiplets, I should point out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it actually had 4 of those in the package. But because when we saw the poster, and I remember having to take a poster at arm's length because of the tables in the way, and the image that they had was like of ravioli sized on the posters, and
Yeah.
that was one was low quality. I remember doing an article about it for an Antec at the time, and then we had MN Core 2, which was a monolithic
Yeah.
chip designed a bit more for lower power but high performance. So I got speaking with them, and they were quite happy to start talking about their new inference based L1000 that's coming in 26.
Okay. So I had a slightly different experience in that they were sort of conservative on the information that they would say. So like we asked them what model they were using. So they were showing a stable diffusion demo, and we asked what model they were using, and they wouldn't say what model it was. Now, we deduced that it was Stable Diffusion 1.5 because it was 512 by 512 pixels.
So George and I asked different questions of these people. What they had was a system with MN Core 2 in the PCIe slot,
mhm,
and we're just showing it running something.
mhm.
The questions I was asking was more about, what's the purpose of you doing a new chip? Where is it going to go? What is it going to be used for? Who's doing the design? What design cues are you taking from? Um, you know, where's the business use case for this?
Mhm.
Um, and I knew that, I know they're not going to talk about speeds and feeds of their new chip, and the current gen chip is like already out and it's already in the systems it's going to be in.
Well, I wasn't asking about speeds and feeds.
No, but they had a demo, and uh, personally, I think your almost criticism came across of show me you using the latest stuff.
Well, I didn't even say that. I
No,
asked
I
what
know.
Stable Diffusion model are you using?
And my response is, does it matter?
Yes. So the
Why?
performance numbers matter. So,
But
so
they weren't showing that for the purpose of performance numbers. They were
no,
just showing
but,
it working.
but it does matter to
Because people aren't, the people at the show, some of which may end up using it, but not us.
no, but we weren't even
They,
getting to that
right,
point in terms of talking about it
right.
because we wanted to see.
It,
Essentially,
right.
we were trying to figure out in
If it was grok,
yes.
then yeah, I would have nailed them to the wall without if they weren't going to show performance numbers, right? But preferred networks is not grok. It's not a multi-$100 million VC funded company that bashes, that knocks on the door of the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg asking for articles, right? It's preferred networks. It's a tiny Japanese company that does stuff for the academic market in Japan.
Yes, and but but we were just trying to get like a vague idea of what the performance generally was of the chip.
The performance is there, it runs, and it meets our customers' needs.
Okay, but like what basically we were trying to figure out what does this show for the future, right? Not even asking, just
Well, no, because the inference accelerator is not going to be MN Core 2. It's there's
no,
sort of.
but it okay. Uh, I guess we should probably move on because we just argue about this.
No. I'm prepared to argue.
Well,
There's lots to talk about. Let me see if I can pull it up here, just in case, because I'm sure I got a.
maybe I'm just an idiot. I
No, it's yeah. So they showed actually I want to show this picture because I'm pretty sure we used for this. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can zoom in. Can you see this? Here we go. They showed us. Right? So
mhm.
as you say, the benefit of 3D stacked steam,
Yeah.
and then on here, that's what they want for their new chip, right?
I'm waiting for it to move up.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
yeah,
I saw that on their website and I'm like, well, okay. It's a bit to me they should have flipped it. Like I know why they had the 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 line trending down, but they should have had the graph flipped because it seems weird to have
yeah.
high power on the left and low power on the right. Usually it's the other way around.
No, but okay, just rather than the graph being difficult to read or annoying to read,
Yes.
what about the positioning, right?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the issue is okay, you have that claim, great, but do you at least have hardware that can suggest that maybe you could do that? And that's sort of what we were trying to get out of MN Core 2, right?
See if I can, um, Yeah, so it's that two numbers, um, and that's just a general graph, I think. So this is what the architecture is. This is the architecture picture. So a typical processor today only uses a small portion of silicon for ALUs. We do a lot more. This is achieved by implementing instruction scheduling and cache control. So MN Core is a deterministic VLIW.
Okay.
So again, I ask, does it matter what stable diffusion model they're running with deterministic VLIW?
Okay, when you start saying deterministic VLIW, no, because it's you know my feelings about VLIW.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, VLIW stands for very long instruction word. And the whole point of VLIW is that if you know your workload, you can pack multiple instructions into one encoding,
Mhm,
which means that your instruction density of the submission density of instructions to the CPU is high,
mhm,
but it requires very careful orchestration of the memory and where data goes in registers. And it's typically used in DSPs or digital signal processors. Things like the camera in your smartphone knows it's only going to be working on photo data.
yes,
So when you take it and it does, gamma adjustments and contrast adjustments, that's digital signal processing
yes,
or audio.
and
So VLIW is very good for that because it's a very consistent, predictable workflow that can be made very, very efficient. However, the programmability to do anything other than that specific thing
mhm.
is terrible.
uh, Intel
So,
Titanium
well,
is VLIW, and
so you can have GPUs that are VLIW as well.
I mean, Terascale,
Yeah,
AMD Terascale was VLIW.
yeah.
I believe the
Well,
first generation
then
of Tegra,
Sega Saturn.
yeah,
That has a VLIW GPU. Um, yeah, so again, if you know your workload,
yes,
it's a very good. So it's almost as if you're building a processor specifically for one workload, and we've kind of seen this in machine learning. There are companies coming up that want to do models.
Gronk is VLIW.
Grok's a little different. Their whole thing is almost no caches,
Yes,
determinism, and they have a cycle accurate compiler. Actually, to be honest, they say that here as well. But this isn't that. But yeah, it's VLIW just has very strong roots in DSP. Yeah, and it has restrictions and it's not, imminently not flexible. So, are you interested in learning more about MN Core now?
how are they doing VLIW? But like,
So it's morbid curiosity
yes,
rather than
yeah.
yeah.
And Power666 in the chat says VLIW is best described as instruction packets that have some internal packet restrictions. Yeah, that's not a bad way to put it, honestly. That's pretty on the nose. Um, Ayar Labs. So this is neat. So what you can barely see it in this photo, but what between all the optical connect fibers there, there's sort of a plate of glass, and that's a waveguide. That's a glass waveguide, and that allows for essentially that's acting as a bundle of fibers, except it's just a piece of glass. So
Well, this demo specifically is because IR Labs, as an optical company, as an optical chiplet doing co-packaged optics or optical I/O, however you want to call it, has partnered with Corning.
yes,
So if you're going to do optics, what's the one company that you want to partner with about glass?
Corning,
Corning.
which is also yeah.
So essentially, this demo was just to showcase that relationship.
Really? Because I thought it was
Yeah.
okay. Because I got a slightly different interpretation of it.
Well, no, can you explain the chips, what people are seeing?
Um, so the bottom left, so the chiplets on the bottom are FPGAs. And this is just a regular this is not like a functional demo. This is just no.
No. So these are FPGAs with co-packaged optics tiles or
Mhm.
optical I/O tiles. They do have FPGAs in their working demo that are this.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't a functional demo in of itself,
Okay.
but they do have silicon
Okay.
because we saw it at Hot Chips, if you remember. They were doing 4 terabits per second.
Yes.
And
But
we
I
also
thought
had it today. This doesn't do.
no. This is a different This is a different demonstration, right? That's why I was a bit confused. Um.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. Uh. Azure X. So yeah. The FPGAs. Are Altera FPGAs with Terafy optical chiplet IO chiplets. And then you have so that middle part, so that one sort of off to the right on its own, that aren't connected to any FPGAs, is the light source. So that's our supernova light source. That's what powers all the optics.
All the lasers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think their second gen does 16 lambdas, so we can do 8 terabits per second now, which is good. Now, do you know what this is?
Is that the 122 terabyte SSD?
So I am a sucker for high capacity storage.
Uh-huh.
Right here we have a U.2 drive for 122 terabytes,
Mhm.
which what Phison are going to call this is 128 terabyte class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because one of it is just simply power of 2 versus power of 10.
Yes.
So you may know that in the 8 terabyte class, we have 7.84 terabyte drives,
Mm-hmm.
also 6.4 terabyte drives. It depends on how much over provisioning.
Ah.
So it still has 128 terabytes, or maybe, or probably more,
Mm-hmm.
of NAND flash inside.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the way it needs to be segmented. But this is using new 2 terabit NAND packages. So that's how they're getting density in a U.2.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
insane.
Okay, so this might be a is it U.2 or U.3?
It's U.2.
Huh. Okay.
They have a E3.S version,
Okay.
which
So
is
this might be a bit of a hot take, but I don't really like the M.2 standard for desktops. Give me U.2, please, or U.3.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, PCIe 5 by Gen 5 by 4 or Gen 5 by 2 dual port. That just means you can do dual control. Drive writes per day up to 0.3. So it's only rated for 40 terabytes writes per day, but
mhm.
it can do
Yeah, only.
well. It's 2RC, right?
Uh-huh.
It says read 14 gigabytes per second, write up to 2.1 gigabytes per second. It's a read focused drive. It's ultra high capacity, with some performance. Um, and do you know who this is?
Hold on, I'm trying to figure out what's 10,000 seconds.
Just shy of 3 hours.
So it would take about 3 hours of writing to
Yeah, to fill the
yeah.
drive.
Um,
Yeah, so on the right here, this is Alan Malventano,
yes.
who used to be at PC Perspective. He used to be their storage guy. He has since worked at Intel, Solidigm,
Hmm.
and now he's at Phison, with a couple of other people who used to be journalists in the industry.
Mm.
Yeah, they also happen to have the mountain visit their booth.
Mm.
Just between the two of these. So also, of course, I have to insert.
Always. You always very hungry for new silicon.
Um,
Um,
so did you speak to this company?
no, this completely passed me by.
So Avicina is also an optical company.
Okay.
An example here is imagine exchanging your HBM
Uh-huh.
for optical I/O, and then you have the HBM somewhere else, and the only latency you're adding is the conversion to optical and time of flight,
Okay.
which may be enough. The difference with Avicina
Mm-hmm.
is that they're not doing the electrical to optical conversion.
So they're just doing optical to optical? What?
So they're just focused on the light generation and the light transmission
Okay.
and the light receiving.
Okay.
Um, but the way they're doing it, right? So you saw with IR Labs, it was a laser generation
Uh-huh.
with multiple lambdas, multiple wavelengths.
Yes.
So essentially, in traditional light terms, multiple colors,
Mm-hmm.
right? These guys are using micro LEDs with a lens.
Okay.
So it's one wavelength per fiber.
Uh-huh.
I think they said 384 fibers. Um, and they can each do 256 gigabit per second.
Oh wow. Okay. I can't
It,
do that math in my head.
the whole point being is if
Um,
it's only one wavelength, you need a lot more. But their key innovation is the technology to build 50 micron pitch micro LEDs. So
wait, hold on. So that's gonna be 32 gigabytes per lane times 384. So you're at what, 10 terabytes if my math isn't wrong?
it's something like that. But this is just a mock-up, right?
Yes.
So that would be end goal.
Uh,
This picture that's coming up is that's the mid range.
mhm.
You have it off package rather than
Yep.
package. That makes sense.
Apparently it's 12, just over 12 terabytes per second. Thank you, Solid Reactor in chat. Can't quite do that math in my head. Uh, not when I'm this tired.
Yeah. This image here is showing their chiplets next to like a dummy die.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's what they're building. The things at the bottom here.
Oh, okay.
So it's literally normally in an optical I/O solution, you have an optical integrated chiplet and an electrical integrated chiplet, and you bond them together. This is just the optical one.
Okay.
Which is actually, let me go back. Um, yeah, let's see if we can read this. Zoom in. So yeah, 1.6 terabits per second light bundle interconnect, ultra low power optical for chip to chip and chip to memory, less than 10 watts per endpoint for 1.6 terabits per second. Um, Patented micro LED. One thing here that they say is it wide temperature range. Some
Mhm.
co-packaged optics
Yes.
may be susceptible to thermal variance. Um, they're using a standard electrical interface, 8 times 200 gig. Uh, they're targeting HPC and AI because who isn't? Uh, so again, the criticism here is their numbers about latency.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying without time of flight, that's simply the latency to create the light and then receive it at the other end. But without the time of flight,
Yeah.
is 6 nanoseconds. Um, and it can go to 10 meters reach. And their peak temperature during the manufacturing design is 270 degrees.
Okay.
Um,
So, okay. Tracy, question. Could you build a card just of HBM and then, or well, two cards, and then feed out to this with
Well, yeah, it's the point is with optical is you don't no longer have to have the HBM right next to the card,
Yes.
right next to your ASIC. So you can get the benefits of power. You still have to pay extra power to do it and extra
Yeah.
latency, but it means you no longer have to worry about your shoreline in the same way.
Yes.
But that's also kind of the benefit of CXL, right? You can
It's just
do
lower bandwidth.
yeah, but you can do massively high capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So, Power 666. I think you it's a 256 gigabit per fiber, not 256 gigabytes over 384 fibers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Regulus. This is mobile in, isn't it? Yep. Wow, I'm surprised I actually remember that. uh,
I won't speak too much about this. Um, yeah, Mobilin is one of the Korean AI startups, mostly focusing on CNNs for cameras and stuff.
okay.
So nothing too busy there.
So,
Uh,
Cybot, yes, in a vacuum, but this isn't a vacuum. I don't know what the
repeating message for people again.
so the message is 1 meter one way time of flight would be 3.3 nanoseconds for a for light. Yes, in a vacuum, but this isn't vacuum. This is glass, and that has a different index. So it's going to be lower than that. It's probably somewhere in the region of, let's say, 5 to 6 nanoseconds.
to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Just
No.
one nanosecond per foot, which is what he's saying. You're saying that because of the yeah, it will be slower in glass because that's vacuum
Mhm.
time. By and large, as long as you keep consistent, everybody's still working rule of thumb on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is Lightmatter, yet another optical company.
That seems to also have been a theme, a lot more optical.
Well,
Um,
four.
I, I, I'm not just talking about optical interconnects. I'm also talking about like optical compute, but also just optics in general. We're a lot bigger, like optical for networking.
Well, that's because we're getting to the end
Yeah.
of copper in
Yeah.
networking.
Um.
Copper can get to 800 gig. There's questions whether it can do 1.6 terabit. After that, it's
Yeah.
optical, but also optical has the distance benefits.
Yes. So what light matter is doing is wanting to replace. So on MI300X, you have the compute, you have the SRAM, and then you have your interposer. And the interposer connects the base tiles to the HBM, as long as connecting the base tiles all together. What light matter wants to do is replace the silicon interposer with an optical interposer. Um,
So the idea being that if you say have a small 50 square millimeter compute chiplet,
mhm.
you can put a dozen or 2 dozen down
Uh-huh.
into an interposer, and they can all talk to each other optically
Mhm.
at high speed, at low power,
Mhm.
in an all-to-all config,
Mhm.
which is hard to do without having an interposer. But then you can
Can you see
also
one?
yeah. But you can also go off chip very, very easily.
Mhm.
So what we're seeing here, what this is so I first came across Lightmatter 4 or 5 years ago. Nick Harris is the CEO. He's a fun guy to talk to, but seems to be very hard to get hold of. He wasn't at the show. Um, they Lightmatter purposefully brought their interposer chip, which they call Passage. The technology is called Passage, to a conference for me to take a bite.
Yeah. Nice.
So they have a great photo of me doing that, and the people at the booth, even though I haven't spoken to them in almost 2 years now,
Mhm.
knew who I was.
Mm.
Right, so they knew I was. But this is one of their first customer chip integrations. So
Oh, so this is an actual integration.
yeah, So
I did not. They did not say that. I didn't know that.
yeah, it's you
Okay.
can chat with them. So that is underneath is 8 compute chips,
Mm-hmm.
one optical interposer,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously 8 connections off chip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they said, yeah, they're pretty much ready to go now.
Awesome. I did not know that that was a development that they had had. So. Mm-hmm.
This is the picture that shows passage. You can see here. Let's see.
Yeah, it's all nicely exploded so that you can see each layer. And yeah, you can see that you have the 8 chiplets and then stacked on top of this interposer.
Custom socket.
Okay, so it is a custom socket. So they design their own socket. Is it a BGA socket or is it okay? So it's a BGA socket. So you have to ball it down. Um, haha. Reflow it down.
Power through. This isn't.
Mm.
It's something to solve.
Yeah, so power through glass, like Ian said, in case you didn't hear him, is a problem to solve. Because it's how do you transmit power through glass? In theory, you could maybe have copper, like if you could somehow drill really tiny holes and then insert copper through TSVs. Okay, that's exactly what you do. But yeah, yeah.
So
Like, yeah, so on the right is the wafer. I can't really read the rest of that, so it may be big on your guys' screen, but the screen for me it's a small window and not a very high resolution TV, like
that's fine.
2 meters away.
This
So
so this is Envise. This is an R&D project. It's not a productization thing right
okay,
now, but this is optical compute.
okay,
So they have an interesting demo I can't talk about, but yeah.
of course,
So,
yeah. I'm not completely sold on optical compute, but I will say that the passage stuff is really cool. Um,
so yeah, this is what they're showing. Photonic computing, analog processing, matrix vector, 4 photonic cores, 128 by 128 systolic arrays. I think it's 128-bit. So as in
uh-huh.
128 wavelength, 128 wavelength.
Okay.
Um, yeah, running advanced neural network models. So it's really
Okay.
ooh.
Fun amount. It's you know what? It's likely a number that can be multiplied by one. Oh, Intel Gaudi 3, the add-in card. So this thing supposedly, even though it's an add-in card, can go up to 600 watts, which is quite spicy for a add-in card of this size and type. You're going to be quite reliant on lots of airflow from your server fans. You need many as
Right. The key thing here isn't that this is Intel Gaudi.
oh,
One, they've actually got a design ID, right? And
okay,
so this is the designed shroud
okay.
for it. There's no silicon in there. There's no PCB in it. It's plastic.
Oh, okay.
The company who this was SourceForge.
Oh,
Sorry, Source Code.
I completely missed it. Okay.
Yeah, it was like round the corner in one of their booths, and I went and I said,
Oh, was
"Oh,
that
that's
in the Ampere 1 chip?
yeah." It was the wrong
Oh,
side.
they removed it by the time I got there.
It was right opposite the Griff.
Oh, okay.
If you did a 180 at the Griff, you would have seen this.
Okay.
But yeah, it's. But the fact is, they now have a design ID, and actually,
Yeah.
that doesn't look too bad,
No,
right?
it looks pretty good.
Um,
Pretty slick.
yeah, we just have to see if they sell any.
um, yeah, so
Okay, so this is the Griff.
Oh, is this the TSA friendly supercomputer? Ah, there it is.
So, did you see this?
Yes, I actually saw it not at their booth, but at the GigaIO booth, because they had one there too.
Yeah, so the point here is you can put 6 sleds into. They said it's 55 pounds weight,
Mm-hmm.
2500 watt max,
Uh-huh.
with dual redundant supplies. So it's basically powered by a backplane
Okay.
that you can stick in. And the point here is that they said you can have a config. So in AI and ML, you may have 2 compute sleds, 1 accelerator sled, two storage sleds, and a network sled. Um, but then in the storage form version, you may only have 1 compute sled and 5 storage sleds.
Hmm.
And I think the idea is that they do the networking on the backplane as well. So there's an internal networking.
Uh-huh.
If you want external networking, you may need the network sled.
Okay.
So
So, okay, I guess this might be a bit of a dumb question, but how's it only 55 pounds? That seems incredibly light for what they're offering.
they fill it with helium. No, I don't actually know. That does seem light.
Yeah.
So I asked because I saw something like this back in Supercomputing 2015. It was a HFT company.
Of course, it's HFT.
The company actually, this was the company that sent me back in the day the i9-9990X,
Oh, okay.
the auction only 14
Yes.
core 5 gigahertz overclockable CPU that required liquid cooling.
Yes.
They sent me it in a 1U with cooling that could go up to 750, 800 watts,
Huh?
which at the time was insane. I still have that system. But that company showed off again, I think it was maybe 8 servers in this sort of form factor. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea was that it was dense and transportable.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Source Code, the company that is essentially going to be the distributor for this. And if you really want to find out, there's a contact email there. Who's interested in this? And defense,
Defense and oil.
oil, contractors.
Yep.
But then he also turned around and said one customer we didn't expect was sports.
Oh, no, that makes perfect sense.
So sports in 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say in 2 ways. One, if you're playing away from home
Mm-hmm.
and you want access to compute resources without having to rely on a network,
Mm-hmm.
and you want localized compute, you can take this with you.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that was explained to me was a sports team may not actually own the stadium it plays in.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually owned by a separate company, and on Monday there may be a sports game, but then on Tuesday and Wednesday there's going to be a conference or a trade show, and so they have to get everything out, and that
Mm-hmm.
includes racks and racks and racks of server
Very
equipment. So
Uh, I can also see sort of a third way, and this sort of ties into some of the stuff that we saw up in the UK. Um, it was video,
yep.
doing video acceleration on
Yeah,
like
well, this is what I thought. This is also, video editing,
yeah,
right? If you have terabytes of data, you
absolutely.
don't want to send that over a crappy 15 megabit per second hotel network. So,
So a little story about that. I tried to upload our so we've done two interviews and many shorts, and I tried to upload it via my internet network in the hotel,
mm,
and it kept dropping. I was so angry when I woke up one night or one day, and
so now you know how I feel in most of Silicon Valley,
yes,
right?
but yeah, I
D-
woke
d-
up and
right. So
the download canceled at 95%. I was like, fuck.
the one way, the one sometimes works is check behind your TV
Hmm.
for an Ethernet cable.
I did.
If you can pull it out,
It was a dead network.
yeah. Most hotels that actually have Ethernet
Hmm.
ports now in the wall. So this hotel I think can do 30 on Wi-Fi,
Hmm.
but because there's a ruckus access point just
Yeah.
over there, if I connect it in, I get 330,
Okay.
which is amazing. So even though Wi-Fi, Davina says Wi-Fi 8 is coming, the problem is so many hotels have Wi-Fi 4
Yeah,
and they never want to upgrade.
yeah.
But another key point, sorry to go back to actually to the system, because that's what we should be talking
Sorry.
about, the Griff. Um, also, research teams that go remote.
Mm-hmm.
They might be in the middle of the jungle for 3 months.
Yep.
And so this uses a generator to power some of that, data processing. So that's the thing. To be honest, to be honest, the scope of sales I was, didn't sound quite high because some of this stuff, how much does the military really need, right? But you can see maybe the military buys 1,000.
Hey,
That,
depending on the price, 1,000's may all you need
yeah,
to make profit,
yeah,
right?
yeah. What's the minimum order quantity or whatever? So
Well, not just that. Like, what's the?
yeah.
Oh,
Do you see, for instance, what accelerators are?
I can't read that. My eyes are.
Yeah,
Oh, H194 gig. Okay, they're the ones that provision 2 GB for like pro networking. But yeah, they're the full fat 96 GB H100s. Additional GPUs and capture cards planned. Yeah, there's your video. Alveo, AMD Alveo V70s, I think, would probably fit right in. And then your compute slide has 64 has
so I'm just going to say, Power 666 says stadiums have impressive networks. Okay, but imagine you're at a convention center,
yep.
at a pet show, for example, and then next day it's Comic Con,
Yeah.
right? Or games done quick that is normally done in hotels. It's an IEEE conference,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't serve you lunch. That sort of event. No, we won't get into that. But yeah,
Or SC itself, where you have these massive networks and then you have to tear it down.
let's see. Yeah, you see what it says there?
You're asking a lot of my eyes. Um, GigaIO Fabric X Fabric memory based on about 55 pounds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I guess, but
See a program on.
the cloud is not the edge. What do you mean? But that's what AWS says it is, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is Trillium
This is the Google TPU V5E.
6,
Oh, it's
6P.
V6, 6P. Okay.
Thing is, for this chip, they've actually made their P chip smaller,
Mm-hmm.
and separated it out. Apparently, it scales better. So
Okay.
um, it was just really fun to see this on the show floor.
They had one in ISC, I believe.
I don't think it was announced better. Not this one.
No, I'm pretty sure it was there. It was hiding. If memory serves.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a Korea. Okay. So this package, it it doesn't look it, but it's huge. It's like I want to say it's almost SP5 size.
Yeah, yeah, AMD Turin
Yeah, it was.
size.
Yeah. So funnily enough, this is actually a single monolithic die under there.
Reticle limited,
I
or less than.
it's less than reticle limit. It looked to be about 600,
Yeah,
just based on eyeballing it. Um,
but this is a custom machine learning accelerator.
Also from Korea. Um,
Did they say it was in memory compute, if I remember correctly? That's right.
I
I'll find it here.
okay, but yeah. So this is quite a big socket for a monolithic die. But what Ian found out was that it's actually a Broadcom socket. It's a about a 4,000 pin, 4,100 pin.
It looks like a Broadcom socket for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not a standard. So like an LGA.
But it's socketable.
Yes, it's socketable. And this system, the way that it runs is you have your ARM CPU, which in the case of the demo system that they were showing was an Ampere Ultra CPU that then basically is acting as the host CPU for the two accelerator chips on the board that they had.
So two of these packages, not two chips in a package.
Yes,
Even though they were both
yes. Yeah, two separate packages on the board, both of them being controlled by the host ARM CPU.
Yeah, so host device, just like CPU to GPU, it's a 1 to 2. The CPU is Ampere,
Yes.
but in this case, the accelerator is itself an ARM-based system.
Yes, so it has two ARM V1, Neoverse V1 cores on them. Each accelerator, so each package has
Yeah.
two V1 cores on it.
It's so it has a 5x7 mesh network,
Uh-huh.
and on that network you have two Neoverse V1s.
And the mesh network is CMN 700, which
So
is
it's ARM.
so it's an ARM off the shelf network.
And the rest of the mesh network is supplied by a mixture of RISC-V cores,
Mm-hmm.
so RV64G with custom ISA extensions, or FP64 matrix multipliers. So you have 256 RISC-V cores
Mm-hmm.
and 4096 FP64 cores.
Likely those are also RISC-V based, but with much stripped down
Yeah,
ISA and
because it's for it's basically execution acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 channels of DDR5 per accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
1.4 billion gates. Oh, 4900.
Oh, 4,900. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Built on TSMC 12 nanometer, die size 26 by 28 mil.
What's that? That's actually that might not be far off of what's that at?
26 by 28 is 670.
Chat will probably get this before I do. 26 by 28. 728. So
Here's the inviting, of course.
always we must feed the Ian.
It's shoot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I would call it. We're doing FPGA version
Yes.
on 2025 for the HPL API library. I think the API library is the important one.
Yes.
So here's the grid for GigaIO.
I'm just waiting for the thing to update. Yeah, because the stream is at about what a 10-second delay or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that Griff computer in a suitcase. This is an example of configuration. If you have so the internally in the base in the backplane you have this GigaIO network disaggregation, and the point is you can take, in this case, 5 different griffs
Yes.
and connect them together, but because it's composable infrastructure, they will all look like one server.
Okay. I will say, the name Griff, is a bit. Well, yes, but it sounds a lot like grift.
And
Yeah.
Any other
Yeah. So it's yeah, it's yep.
See,
Tokyo grift. Yeah.
Tokyo.
Yeah. Thank you, Davida.
Let's briefly just
Okay.
this.
So I'm still a little bit confused because they had a a spokesperson there, and I was supposed to talk to them.
Yeah.
I was supposed to talk to the CEO. Unfortunately, that had to be shelved. But
So this is an in-memory compute company whose first product is FPGA based using Agilex 7M, so with HBM, built on a bitware FPGA platform.
okay,
So Intel sells the FPGA to bitware. Bitware makes a PCIe card with a specific set of features based on an FPGA. And then Positron takes the FPGA card and makes it into a product
okay,
based on a software stack.
okay.
They are a startup. I believe they're looking to go through a funding round soon. I think they said 12 million, if I remember correctly, seed.
Okay. So tell me
But
how.
they're going to an ASIC next year.
Okay, how exactly do funding is 12 million what you get? Okay, so you get 12 million to then go and do
So
design work with him.
yeah, so that has to pay for your salaries, your resources.
Okay.
So that's office space, office equipment, software, hardware, licensing. So 12 million don't get you very far,
No.
but if you're not doing a tape out and you just need an FPGA, you can buy a couple for 10 grand,
Yeah.
right? 10 grand a pop. I think I actually spoke to the Bitware people because they're a big player in FPGA type devices, and they said that their cheapest FPGA that they typically sell, because they exist more in the Agilex 9, Agilex 7
Yeah.
space, is 5 grand.
Okay.
But you can get them from Mauser.
Yeah.
So
So Vince says in the chat, you get X dollars for Y percentage of the company. So that's how they do the valuation of the company, comparing that percentage to the number. Can you then take a loan out on the valuation? Just as a question to you. No? Okay. I have no idea how this all works, so
you can take a loan sense.
okay. So in theory you could take a loan out on the 12 mil. Yes. Yep. Did you eat it too? Of course you did.
Yeah. So this is what happens at shows, cleaning. In the background of my pictures, anyway. Um, yeah. So that's pretty much, I think, all the pictures, all the things I saw. I have some videos. Um, we also had a chat with some power people.
Yes. Power is not dead.
It, it was never dead.
It was never dead, but
You just hadn't heard about it.
Power had disappeared for it.
Yeah, yeah. There was some so IBM has the IBM Systems division,
Yes.
which is Z and Power.
Yes.
The PR teams for Z and Power are different.
Power 666. I am not dead.
The PR for Z has been actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
The PR for Power we're working on. We both had a chance to speak to the lead architect for Power, Bill Starkey. You actually did an on-camera interview with him,
Yes.
which is going to go on the channel.
Uh-huh.
I just had a casual chat because they have started making ruminations about Power 11.
Yes.
The IBM had an event last month called Tech Exchange.
Yes.
As I understand it, there was a bit of a toss-up as to whether they should present Power at Hot Chips or at Tech Exchange, and in what form that presentation would take. The problem is, companies right now are seeing themselves as solutions companies, not chip companies.
Yes.
So, and Hot Chips doesn't want a solutions presentation; they want a chip presentation. Yeah, there is essentially there are some unrefined messages in Power. That's what caused some of the issue, but also
Yes.
they didn't want to step on the toes of
Yep.
Z at the same conference, even though I'm pretty sure I've been to a Hot Chips where Intel had 4 presentations.
I mean, AMD had four, Intel had four this last, three or four at this last one.
Yeah,
Like,
so so some of it is internalized fear in this, just kind of misunderstanding the purpose of some of these conferences, and that might be because IBM's not on the committee, or maybe some of the IBM is, but not the right
yeah.
people to decide whether they
Um,
should. But yeah, it's the point is we have made inroads into that team
yep.
to start those discussions.
Yes.
IBM is a client of mine, and so as a result, I'm going to be helping them craft the message for George.
yeah, that's it interesting.
Well, no, it means behind the scenes, I can do the tweaks to make sure that
Yes.
they actually say the things they're supposed to say
Y-
and don't say the things they're not meant to say.
And I'm supposed to get the things that they're not supposed to say.
Yeah, well, that's up to you.
Yeah.
It depends if who's doing their job better.
You, because you have 15 years of experience on me. So,
Well,
but Vince says in the chat, Power PC is a solution that to those who need to emulate the AS4000. Yes, and what people forget is that the AS4000 is still everywhere. If you've ever been in any manufacturing company ever, there's an AS400 somewhere. Excuse me, not 4000, 400 somewhere running something critical. I bet you. And uh, it's just you'd be surprised how much 1990s, early 2000s hardware actually runs the world. Or you may not be surprised and just depressed by it. What are the other?
yeah. Um, there's some photos here that I didn't upload. So give me a minute.
Okay.
But what else did you see that wasn't in my?
So, um, it was interesting to see the number of AI companies along with the scope of the differences of in between the different architectures. So, um, if you NextSilicon is a sort of spatial architecture, along with Tenstorm, but the way that both those companies do spatial architectures is very different. Um, then there's like digital compute in memory. So that's stuff like D matrix or what Samsung was is kind of doing with PIM, where you have the compute in memory. Um, or then you have like GraphCore, which is still, which was, as probably many of you know, acquired by um
SoftBank.
SoftBank, and they're doing
They're hiring. I'm not sure if you. I'm not sure if you saw the. There was a press release that went out that basically said, yeah, they've got 75 open positions now.
oh, that's a
So the team
interesting
is
change.
team right now is 370.
Hmm.
I got that confirmed. And they're adding to the team. So
So
they,
they're adding 20%.
but yeah, they're adding silicon engineers.
Mm.
So either they have a chip that needs finalized, or they're
Hmm.
making a new chip. They won't tell me
And or
which.
both.
So I got that news because their PR reached out to me,
Mm.
but they basically said, as you perhaps expect, we're not answering any further questions on this.
Mm.
So
Okay.
they still want to be tight-lipped, but they still do want to at least say in some way stuff is happening.
Yes. Um, and yeah, so and then you have like Cerebrus, right? So, but there's all different approaches to how to do AI in terms of architecture, beyond just MI300X, H100, H200, and yeah. So it's interesting.
it's yeah. There's stuff to do. Um, I'm trying to think. What I saw a bunch of people at the show. I stopped a bunch of times for selfies, and that's always fun. I saw Gabe from AMD.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's part of the AMD technology pathfinding team. He does a bunch of presentations. He's doing one tomorrow as well. John Gustafsson was floating around.
Yep.
The guy who essentially invented posits, which is a different way of representing numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his new 670-page book.
Uh,
Uh, I've actually got well, once this image loads and I can get it onto the screen, I'll show it. But we actually there's actually some silicon now that supports posits.
mhm.
RISC-V cores with custom vector extensions,
Okay.
custom vector units,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I was told by that team, go read the book, the new 670-page book. It sounds like it's already been around the POSIT community before it's published.
Yeah.
So there's a diehard piece of the industry that is involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else did I bump into? It's Supercomputing is one of those events where you see people that you only see once a year
Yeah.
because it's a very specialized conference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we bump into the press that we see every so
Yeah.
often. TPM from the next platform was there.
Nicole.
Nicole, yeah, Nicole's not been feeling well, so I'm glad that she was there and we got to talk about stuff. Yeah, because the next platform is doing some good coverage on this stuff, and they get access to some things that I don't understand how they get access to. Tobias from the Roaster was there. Um,
And got to see your favorite person, Jordan, who
Jordan,
is at the he now works at Western Digital,
yeah.
no longer part of the press corps, sadly.
Oh yes, that's also one thing. Did we mention Nvidia's financials?
No.
They happened this week as well. I was there on the show floor refreshing at 4 p.m. Eastern, going, "Where are they? Where are they?" So Nvidia beat revenue numbers. The street were expecting 33 billion. They got 35.
Uh-huh.
Data center is up 5 billion on the quarter. So this is quarter on quarter. Year on year, revenue is up like 120%, which
Yep.
is insane. Nvidia has now had almost $100 billion of revenue in the last 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Margins are 75%, which is insane. Networking has gone down, but also network attach. So this is Nvidia selling hardware with their own networking.
Uh-huh.
It used to be 35% a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
Now it's only 11,
I'm not surprised.
which means that more people are doing their own custom networking solution, whether that's like HPE Slingshot,
Mm-hmm.
or whether that's AWS Nitro,
Yep.
or whatever Azure's doing with their stuff,
Or
or,
would that also be like
or anything Ethernet that isn't
yeah,
NVIDIA Ethernet.
yeah. So
Um,
like Broadcom, like using Broadcom switches or into the future potentially Pensando Nex,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
and things like Ultra Ethernet Consortium, but also say the adoption of UA Link is going to drive some of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that went up that was perhaps surprising, gaming. Nvidia has made more money on gaming this quarter, and it may even be a record quarter for gaming. 3.2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So Nvidia made more on gaming this quarter than Intel made on data center.
Not quite.
Okay, 3.2 versus
It's
3.3.
very close, which is utterly insane.
And yet that is still one of Nvidia's smallest businesses. Is the gaming?
Well,
They haven't had a new proper product there um for 2 years,
yeah, two and a bit
two and a
at this
bit.
point.
People keep saying Windows 5000 coming out. Let me tell you, Nvidia doesn't care. Unless you're going to buy a chip for 20 grand or 40 grand or 60
Mhm.
grand, gamers ain't the priority here.
Yeah,
But also because Nvidia has a lead in gaming.
yeah.
Right? They could afford to be a generation behind and then go, oh, maybe we should pay attention to this. They're also up in automotive. They're getting some traction, but then also on top of that, they do the robotic stuff, the Jetson Nano, the Xavier, and all that other stuff. So broadly speaking, the major negative is networking is down, but the even bigger positive is everything is up. Wall Street was, we've seen some weird stuff with the share price going up and down with say Nvidia and AMD. Sorry, with Intel and AMD. Intel had a quote unquote bad quarter. They had to report a lot of losses, even though they weren't cash based, and the stock price went up. AMD reported the most record quarter they've ever had,
and revenue and the stock went down.
Yeah, Nvidia was down, 2%, but then rose back up to basically being almost equal. So it's part of the problem is I need to look into Nvidia's historic numbers to see where it's going. But yeah, their data center business went up to 20. I want to say 27.8 billion for the quarter. But overall revenue's 35. I think they're predicting 37 billion, the outlook for next quarter, but the margin's going down to 73%, so they may be putting more money back into R&D. They did also do $11 billion worth of share buybacks this quarter. Yeah, so that also pushes up the price when the company buys shares.
Yeah.
Dividend was about, I think earnings per share were about 78 cents. They went through a stock dilution back in June. So that just makes things complicated, especially if you have any idea what any of that means.
I'm
learning.
I have a general idea, but like I am not a financial person. I still don't understand how the market like bakes in certain things to get.
Basically, George is saying he needs money to live.
Yes, but that's true for everyone. Um,
Oh yeah, the guy that we had dinner with, on the chips and cheese night, was that last night? Will's friend.
Nick.
Yeah, he subscribed to my Substack at
Yes.
the highest rate.
Oh, did he?
Are you insane? You realize that you've now bought an hour of my time.
I mean,
if you want to shoot the shit,
yeah.
give us a shout. I'll reach out to you because you earned it. Um,
I honestly haven't even checked the CNC website. I've been other than to literally post the top 500 article and video. I've been way too busy just trying to walk around and get the stuff that I need to get done.
oh, I've got a ton of emails saying, "Can you have meetings next week?" I'm going to see if these images have uploaded. Um, what, so, what's your plan, George?
What do you mean?
What do you still have to do?
So tomorrow I have to run down to SC to the building and start uploading all of my videos.
You got to use the house.
Yeah, well, it's still there. Um, move all the videos onto the Google Drive. Then go find Gabe. Say hello, and go to his presentation. To go find that. Actually, I was using the SC 24v6 networking network.
The networking went down today at times.
Did it?
As in, the Wi-Fi access points were still accessible, but then some of them got knocked out. And then at times the whole building network went down.
Really? I did not experience that, but I also wasn't using the network today.
So this chip on screen, this is the POSIT chip.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be speaking to the company about what it is.
Also, complete side note, but these berry clouds are kind of addictive.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are a little bit addictive. and I need to stop, but I'm
No, there's no stopping.
okay. So Valesti in chat. Oh god, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce that.
Yes, APs were maxing out client leases at times. The thing is, every so often you'd hear an announcement say, at least I did on Monday, asking people to turn off their hotspots
Mm-hmm.
and to use the event network,
Mm.
right, rather than using their own, because that just.
That increases like EMI interference
I
and
know, but Wi-Fi 6 is meant to solve this. Wi-Fi 7 is even better.
well, yes, but you're still gonna have like
Yeah, but it's meant to solve it. It's meant to solve it. Let's put it this way: if your demo is that sensitive to Wi-Fi,
yeah,
you shouldn't be doing it at a trade show,
yeah.
and you should just be replaying a video of somebody doing it in the office. So yeah, it's
Get those away from me.
no, I know, no, it's all right. We got marshmallows instead. So these might be cooking marshmallows. I don't know. I just saw them. It turns out the convenience store options around Georgia Convention Center are terrible.
Yeah.
Um,
Because if you know anything about downtown Atlanta, it was built up for the Olympics, and
we're not downtown, are we?
where Centennial Park was built up for the Olympics, this whole
Oh,
area was,
yeah,
right? And then it kind of fizzled out after. It never was up to the same sort of
yeah, the standard, yeah.
standard that it was, and it still really never
There's,
recovered.
there's a little bit of a homeless problem here as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Though I wouldn't say I was necessarily scared to walk around,
Mm-hmm.
as a white male, regardless of being 5 foot whatever. Um, I didn't go down through the underpass because there were a lot of people sleeping down there. Um, but yeah, it's there are some places you go in some cities, San Francisco Tenderloin, for example. Yeah,
Or
you don't want to
Skid
walk.
Row, LA,
Yeah, you don't want to walk.
even in the daytime.
A couple of blocks either way. Which, yeah, but next year is St. Louis, so we'll see what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
Our good friend Jeff Geerling is based there,
Yep.
so we'll definitely see him and no doubt see what's going on there. Because I remember he did go to SC last time he was in town because I saw him with Patrick Kennedy at
Mm-hmm.
the St. Louis Arch.
Mm.
That being said, a couple of people told me one of the issues with St. Louis was that the infrastructure for post-event food,
Mm-hmm.
as in the restaurants, there just weren't enough.
Mm.
And they said at their hotel, what would normally be sub 10 people around the bar in
Yep.
an evening, there were 200 waiting for drinks on two servers. So two servers, and at one point had to um, stop serving drinks because they'd run out of glassware, and they had to go wash them.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, I made the fun mistake of ordering Uber Eats, but enough Chinese food for 6 people.
Yes. And thankfully he did that. Otherwise, I would be starving by now.
Yeah, it's
So.
yeah. So I had food last night, breakfast this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and we both just ate, and I still have food left
Mm.
from that order. Yeah, probably should either finish that tonight or throw it away. I'm going home tomorrow.
Yep.
Um, Nibelung says he was at Peachtree Plaza. I'm on that road
Yeah.
straight down. So I've walked past the Hard Rock Cafe. Because on one side of the road you have Hard Rock Cafe, on the other side of the road you have the Hooters. And around the corner you have a diner.
Yep.
That's the place I went where they automatically added an 18%
Ah,
tip
that place.
and then also added a line on the receipt for a tip.
Mm.
Is if you're going to add a fixed amount, you don't get to ask for more,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Right, unless you're Shack, unless you're serving Shack. Trust me, the food wasn't good enough to be serving to Shaq. So
So
there is a bunch of restaurants around here that are in the sort of 3.5 star range, which is
yeah.
depressing.
So okay. You say that, but no joke. There was one place in London that I went. Sorry, it wasn't London. It was no, it was Sheffield. It was Sheffield, and
Sheffield, almost steel.
and it was a place I went with a friend up in
Hmm.
and yeah, they added a gratuity, but then they also had the tip. It was like 15% for the
So,
gratuity.
so there is this concept of having a service charge, which is not a gratuity, a gratuity,
Yeah,
a tip.
yeah.
Um, and the whole purpose is, this is what's needed to pay our staff. If you
Hmm.
want to put more on top, then go ahead. Um, but this is tipping culture central in
Yes,
this country, so why even add it?
yes.
Tristan says a tip is usually automatically added for groups. Yes.
Gratuity normally is.
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, they're both the same fucking thing.
Yes, they are.
And that's automatically there. There are places in the UK that will automatically add a 12.5% or whatever,
Hmm.
um, for any number, and that's perfectly fine. But don't ask for more, right?
Yeah,
It's you're playing a game of fixed amount roulette,
yeah.
right? So you either accept the fact that some people will refuse to pay it,
Hmm.
or refuse to pay less, but don't go asking for more. It's really
I
annoying.
have this crazy idea. It's called paying your servers,
Yeah,
and just make this whole just bake in the whole tip thing into the price of the food.
you can't bake it; they'll charge for it. You know,
Uh,
it's like hotels. You get the city fee
the
and then
resort
resort
fee,
fee,
the
and
pool fee,
the check-in fee, the key card fee,
internet fee.
and the fuck you fee.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I actually know in sports has a great example. It's called FIFA. Fee
Mhm.
for this, fee for that. The joke being that it costs so much to hold the football World Cup,
Yeah.
and FIFA just makes all the money. So yeah. So
Yeah.
so my history with the Hard Rock Cafe, just because Nibelung is saying it about it in the comments, is that every time I've been to the Hard Rock Cafe, it's been slightly better than average food, but it's always been really packed and really loud.
Yeah, so the Hard Rock Cafe can get like that. Do you actually know who owns the Hard Rock Cafe?
Um, is it somebody like Sting or something?
No. Mm-mm. So the Hard Rock Cafe is actually owned by the Seminole tribe in Florida.
Right, okay.
And so they are essentially the owners of the
You mean a tribe of indigenous people?
yes, so the
Okay.
Seminole tribe. Um uh yeah.
Yeah, so I've been to the Hard Rock Cafe in London, Barcelona, Vegas. Um, yeah, and the whole thing about giving tips for picking when you're picking up food is weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do
So Power says you should go to the heavy metal diner instead. What heavy metal diner? I would go if I knew about it. Well, again, this is a problem because this is the first time I've been to Atlanta.
yeah, also my for
Yeah,
even though I used to live in Northwest Florida,
yeah,
I've this is my first time in Atlanta outside of the airport, of course.
yeah. It's whereas San Francisco, I've been to every hotel on Great America Parkway pretty
Mhm.
much. Yeah, there's only a couple dozen down there, but you go often enough, you just know where everything is, and you know where to get bubble tea and where the good food is, and
Mhm.
Uber Eats says, "Do you want to order from here again?" Yeah, so I'll be back there in a few weeks for IEEE conference, IEDM.
When aren't
Uh,
you in the Bay Area? You might as well buy a condo there.
And that was one of the first questions when we started the podcast, right?
It wasn't.
When you buying a house in the US?
Huh?
And I'm not. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Um, I'm happy to get the best seat in economy, which actually reminds me I need to check in because my flight tomorrow. But yeah, huh, supercomputing isn't done. We've still got content to do.
Mhm.
Um, you're going to go back to the venue. I'm just going to fly home tomorrow,
Yep.
which is good. But yeah, looking forward to it next year. Do I need to prep better? Because
Um,
my sleep has been relatively crap this time around.
what sleep?
No, but I mean, it's you can have good sleep and bad sleep, but I've
Hmm.
consistently had 4 to 5 hours a night,
Hmm.
and on a couple of nights that's been broken sleep.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. Or one night my room smelled of marijuana. We're right next to the highway, as you've heard,
Yes.
right?
So
So when
I don't know if you guys have been hearing, but there's been sirens going off
yeah,
over and over and over. Um,
yeah. So yeah, and it still cost me 350 a night to be
mhm,
here. But I have a kitchen and I have a washer dryer. Thing is, in the
mhm.
kitchen they gave me one pot, uh,
And no utensils.
no utensils. They literally have a chalkboard here, and I wrote a message saying "frying pan?" question mark. Um, and but I did get a note from the cleaner saying we don't have any bread. Let me show. Let me show you how
What?
weird this is. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, read that out.
Sorry, we don't have bread, but you can. I can't remember.
Honestly.
Ask the kitchen or reception. Have a nice day. But
I didn't ask for bread.
yeah,
So what does my sign say on the wall?
so the sign says more coffee plus sugar, please. And then under that, also frying pan question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're making like French toast or bread pudding, maybe
I don't know. I don't know. Nemo asked, "Did you do Airbnb?" I have done in the past, but I've had I have been the most recent Airbnbs I've been to have either been literally out of it's the last thing available. But I went to one. Um, this wasn't work. This was vacation, and we went out for the day. I came back, um, and all the beds had been stripped and the stuff was drying. Clearly, a cleaner had come in,
Mm-hmm.
which is normally between
Yeah.
people's stays to go clean it.
Mm-hmm.
But all of our stuff was there. Like I had my laptop out and my bag, and the
Mm-hmm.
clothes were in drawers and whatever. Yeah, so that's just when you get an Airbnb, you expect it to be a home, not a hotel room,
Yeah.
right? Especially because when I get an Airbnb, I get a property, not a room in somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just got to the point where also if you're staying for a long time at an Airbnb, you have to go out and make sure you have enough toilet paper and things like that. Whereas
Yeah.
if you- as it or clean, whereas if you're in a hotel, you get that every day, and if you need a clean towel, you can have a clean towel. If you need to send something out for laundry, there is that option in most. Um, Nibelung says, which hotel provided you with laundry and kitchen? So laundry isn't free. Let's just put it that way. You still have to pay for it. Um, this is a hotel which essentially only does suites. Um, s- it's typically so the one I go to in the Bay Area is like a long stay place.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed for people who are going to be staying there for a couple of months because they've got a job in the area or
Mm-hmm.
something. And they have breakfast and but it's the same thing every day. Whereas, yeah, no, here was just a simple case of what is still available when I booked it, because I booked it in
Mm-hmm.
September, and what isn't complete arse. But also, my flights were really expensive because I booked late. So I paid almost $2,000 for a return economy ticket. So
Yeah, so
yeah, some hotels don't do laundry, and I find that weird. Actually, the place I stayed in Denver
mm-hmm.
last year, I went down and I said, "Hey, I'm running out of clothes. You guys do laundry?" And they said, "No, you have to go to a laundrette." And I said, "Well, the nearest one is 10 blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
No, more than 20 blocks away. Or you can use, or we recommend people use this service, as in you can leave your laundry by reception, the service picks it up, and then they leave it at reception at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
However, to register for that, you needed a US phone number. So it's not for international people."
Yeah, which
And I
is why
said,
you need my phone number.
well, it's in the end, I just wash the clothes myself in the shower and let them dry.
Mm.
It's only needed a couple of extra days worth. But no, in the past, especially with a Nantech, when I was doing a lot of stuff in suits every day, yeah, you only bring 3 or 4 shirts really. So if you're staying for a couple of weeks for conferences, you do need to go out and do laundry. The problem becomes when you have to go get your undergarments washed, and the cost of the washing is more than that of the undergarment
Yeah.
because you're a cheap ass. And some of these hotels are really, um, really, really expensive.
So Jeff Bartlett in the chat says the Atlanta Hard Rock Cafe has/had a sign that states you cannot bring in thermonuclear weapons. Okay.
Well, you can't use cloud services to do simulations for thermonuclear weapons. So that definitely tracks.
Yeah. So
Yeah. We've been going for a few hours now.
yeah, it's
We
been
need to peak. I'm tired. I may need
I need to go to
sleep.
the reception because I promised Will that I would. I need
Uh,
to go.
oh yeah, there is a reception at the Atlanta Aquarium
Yes, I
tonight.
promised I would, so I need to go.
Yeah,
Um,
before that shuts, so you
yeah,
can
that's like 10.
get your drink on. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
and I'm fucking exhausted.
yeah. Well, it's been a heavier show than normal.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
take a breath.
go for it then. So yeah, if you've been at Supercomputing and you've enjoyed it, good for you. We'll see you next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jan asked for timestamps. Yep, we'll get timestamps done. Check in the description as well as the comments because sometimes it's posted in one or the other. But if this is your first time supercomputing and you're coming back, yeah, now you know what to expect. So it's time to prepare for next year. Bring enough suitcases to get your swag on. Find out who has the good stuff in advance. And always ask companies if they've got a dinner on and if you can be invited.
Yes.
If you really want food, because like I said, it sounds like St. Louis all gets booked up very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you all for watching.
Yeah. Have a good one, folks.